Chapter 11:11. I think that the three great families' ancestral elders are right. This woman has clearly turned into a demon. Look at her eyes, they are clearly the eyes of a demon. If she doesn't die, many people will suffer. That's right. This woman deserves to die. She has a cruel nature. She should be killed for the safety of the common people. The crowd jeered and shouted. In their eyes, Lin Ruabai was a demon and the people from the three great families were deities who had slain demons. Lin Ruabai remained expressionless as she stood in the middle of the elders' encirclement. Her red eyes were blood-red, and it seemed as if there was a blood-red light in her eyes. It was extremely terrifying. A battle was about to break out. The ancestral elders were Holy Spirit practitioners and were supreme beings on this mainland. Even so, Lin Ruabai did not fall into a disadvantageous position when facing so many ancestral elders at the same time. Mother! Just then a soft voice rang out from the crowd. I know this little sister. She seems to be from the medical tower. If Qing Yan was here, she would have recognized this little girl as the one who had almost been hit by the O family's carriage and had been rescued by her. She was also the one who had vowed to join the medical tower after she had been rescued. Yuaner, don't talk. The woman next to her was so frightened that she covered her mouth and carefully watched the battle in front of her. However, she did not cover her mouth very tightly and the little girl's voice could still be heard faintly. Mother, why do they all think that this little sister is at fault? I think that the people from the three great families are not good people. They had wanted to hit me before, and it was the big sister from the medical tower who saved me. Therefore, these people are the bad people and the big sister from the medical tower is definitely a good person. I must join the medical tower in the future. The little girl was still young. In her heart, Qing Yan, who had saved her, must be a good person. Therefore, the people from the medical tower were also good people. On the contrary, the people from the O family who wanted to hit her were definitely bad people. Yuan. The woman was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. She hurriedly shouted, Don't talk nonsense so that you don't get into trouble. The little girl blinked her ignorant eyes. She was still young and did not know what had happened. The gray-robed old man looked at the little girl coldly and a fierce look flashed in his eyes. When no one was paying attention, a powerful force shot out from his sleeve and directly struck the little girl. The little girl did not notice the gray-robed elder's actions. It should be said that no one saw this scene, hence, when they saw Lin Ruabai rushing towards the little girl, everyone was shocked. Quick, get out of the way, this demoness has gone mad. Everyone hurriedly screamed. The woman was also stunned. By the time she came back to her senses, Lin Ruabai was already in front of the little girl. Puff. She quickly pulled the little girl into her arms and the attack landed fiercely on her back. Previously, in order to chase after this attack, she had used up a lot of strength, so she did not have the chance to put up a defense. If a spiritualist fought without any defense, he would only be slightly better than a normal person. This was also why it was so easy for assassins to kill people of a higher rank than them. The little girl blinked her eyes in a daze, staring blankly at Lin Ruabai. She stretched out her hand and wiped the blood from the corner of Lin Ruabai's mouth. Her eyes filled with confusion. Big sister, why are you bleeding? Chapter 11:12. Lin Ruabai lowered her head to look at the little girl. Her eyes were still blood-red, but her face was no longer expressionless. Under the cover of the sun there was a layer of light. Did you just say that you want to join the medical tower? The little girl nodded seriously. The medical tower is full of good people. The three aristocratic families are all bad people. I want to join the medical tower and beat up the bad people. This time, the woman did not stop the little girl. No matter how stupid she was, she could see everything in front of her. Her daughter had said a few words about the three aristocratic families, and these sanctimonious people had tried to kill her. If the girl from the medical tower had not risked her life to save her, perhaps her daughter would have been separated from her. Lin Ruabai smiled. Her smile was so dazzling that no one could look away. Remember what you said today. The medical tower welcomes you at any time. Miss. The woman stepped forward and supported Lin Ruabai's body. Thank you for saving my daughter. Lin Ruabai shook her head. She's a good seedling. With proper training, she will become a fighting force by my master's side. I won't let the medical tower lose a good seedling. If I don't die this time, I will mention it to my master and let her enter the medical tower to study. Cough cough. Lin Ruobai coughed out 2 mouthfuls of blood. Her body became weak and she gradually fell to the ground. Little sister. The little girl cried bitterly. She wanted to catch Lin Ruobai, but she did not have enough strength. She could only fall to the ground with Lin Ruobai. Bring her back. The gray-robed elder snorted coldly and said expressionlessly. The woman's body trembled. Just as she was about to speak, the little girl had already climbed up from the ground and stood in front of Lin Ruobai. You bad people, you can't bully little sister. The gray-robed elder's eyes darkened. He put on a fake smile and said, Can't you see that this woman has already become a demon? She's a scourge. We're getting rid of a scourge for the people. The crowd, who originally agreed with the gray-robed elder, did not provoke Lin Ruobai like they did last time. They unanimously remained silent. Master O did not have such good patience. He stepped forward, lifted the little girl and threw her away. He then put Lin Ruobai on his shoulder and said, Let's go. Wow! The little girl had just been picked up from the ground by the woman when she saw Lin Ruobai being carried away. She was so anxious that she burst into tears. She struggled to get up, but in the end, she could only watch as Lin Ruobai was taken away. Little girl. Nangonglan stood up, a smile appearing on her beautiful face. Don't be tricked by someone, that woman is not a good person. Pooh. The woman hugged her daughter tightly and spat on Nangonglan's face. She's not a good person? So you guys are good stuff? My daughter only said a few words about your 3 great clans, and you want to silence them. That girl shouldn't have lost. If it weren't for saving my daughter, she wouldn't have been hit. In the end, who's the bad guy? Nangonglan's face darkened as she looked coldly at the woman. Just as she was about to speak, the mocking voices beside her surged over like a tide. I really thought that the girl had become a demon, causing her to kill people crazily. I didn't think that we'd misunderstood her in the end. Indeed, if the 3 great clans hadn't provoked her, she wouldn't have killed people out of anger. In the end, she was even injured for someone she had nothing to do with. Chapter 11:13. Actually, it's not completely unrelated. If this little girl had not said that she wanted to join the medical tower, she would not have saved her. But no matter what, it's a fact that she has saved others. On the contrary, these hypocrites, who keep saying that they are helping the people get rid of evil, have killed people just because of a few words from a little girl. Hearing the voices of these people, Nangonglan's expression turned exceptionally ugly. She did not dare to say another word and left dejectedly. How glorious she had been when she had arrived was how miserable she had been now. Even though the 3 great families had captured Lin Ruobai, their reputation that they had built up over the years had plummeted. From now on, no one would ever trust the 3 great families again. On the street, Yun Luofeng saw the crowd in front of her from afar. She frowned and quickly walked over. When she stepped forward, she saw the blue luan lying on the ground. Her peerlessly beautiful face sank instantly. Could it be that she was still a step too late? Lord Luofeng. The blue luan struggled to lift her eyelids. When she saw Yun Luofeng walking towards her, her heart filled with joy. She hurriedly said, Master, she has been captured by the 3 great families. Yun Luofeng slowly walked forward, took out a medicinal herb and fed it to the blue luan. After the blue luan's injuries had healed, she gradually stood up. An evil light flashed in her pitch-black eyes. Fire, send the blue luan back. As soon as she finished speaking, a fiery red figure appeared out of thin air and appeared next to Yun Luofeng. This was a girl who looked like a porcelain doll. Her red clothes were like blood and she was extremely enchanting. Even though she was still young and had yet to shed her childishness, one could still see how beautiful she would be in the future. At this moment, the girl was standing next to Yun Luofeng. She opened her mouth and asked, Master, why didn't you bring me along to settle the score with the 3 great families? This time I don't need you. I alone am enough. Yun Luofeng gently raised her eyes. If she did not wipe out the 3 great families, how could she quell the anger in her heart? Those who hurt Xiaobai deserve to die. Sister. Yuaner looked at Yun Luofeng with her large, teary eyes. Are you going to save the big sister just now? Yun Luofeng stopped in his tracks and turned back to look at Yuan. His brows furrowed tightly. Miss. The woman understood the doubts in Yun Luofeng's heart and hurriedly explained, "That little girl was injured while trying to save my daughter. You are all my benefactors. I will pray for your safety here." Yuan blinked her big eyes and looked at Yun Luofeng with some fear. This elder sister's aura was too frightening. She was like a god. That's right, her aura was like that of a god, high and mighty, impossible to blaspheme. It also gave people a sense of security. Big sister said that I can join the medical tower. Is that true?" Yun Luofeng raised his brows and scrutinized Yuan once again. When he saw her talent, a look of surprise flashed across his pitch-black eyes. This little girl is not simple. If he were to be nurtured properly in the future, he would definitely become a powerhouse. What she said is true. You can join the medical tower right now. The woman was startled and asked, "How can Miss be so sure?" As she spoke, Yun Luofeng was already far away, madly sprinting in the direction of the three aristocratic families. However, in the air, her voice could still be heard from afar. "Because I am the pagoda master of the medical tower, I can make this decision." The pagoda master of the medical tower? Everyone was shocked and stared blankly at the place where Yun Luofeng had disappeared. Chapter 11:14. So this woman was the legendary medical tower's tower master. She was also so beautiful and peerless. Yuan blinked her eyes in a daze. "Mother, this sister is so handsome. I want to marry her when I grow up." The woman's forehead twitched as she looked at her daughter with a black face. Yun Luofeng would never have thought that his unintentional actions would cause an ignorant little girl to say such words. Nangong family. Nangong Qing sat on a chair with a face full of worry. His entire person looked very depressed. "I have completely fallen out with the medical tower. I'm afraid I won't be able to explain to her." "Master," the great elder looked at Nangong Qing. "Everything is more important than the big picture. Even if young master has a good impression of that woman from the medical tower, he still knows what is right and wrong. She is just an outsider. How can she make us obey? Dream on." Nangong Qing sighed helplessly. There was no turning back. He could only brace himself and continue on. "Master." At this moment, a delicate voice came from outside the hall. Nangong Qing frowned and turned to look, only to see Mu Qianqian and her daughter entering the hall. "Why are you here?" His expression was not very good as he looked at Nangong Lan coldly. If it wasn't for Nangong Lan, they wouldn't have almost been annihilated today. Nangong Lan lowered her head and did not make a sound, but her hands were clenched tightly by her sides. "Master, you don't have to blame Lan. Lanner is your only flesh and blood in this world." Mu Qianqian smiled delicately and slowly walked towards Nangong Qing. Nangong Qing frowned. "What do you mean? I still have her as my son. He should inherit the Nangong family." Hearing the man's words, Nangong Lan's body shook and her heart suddenly sank. No matter how much she did in her father's eyes, there would always be that illegitimate child. "Nangong Uni?" Mu Qianqian sneered. "That boy's mother is indiscreet, flirting around. Who can be sure that Nangong Uni is master's biological son? We used a drop of blood to identify our kinship." Nangong Qing snorted and replied in a bad mood. Mu Qianqian's eyes flickered and she said with a smile, "Patriarch, how can a blood test be reliable? The person who colluded with Nangong Uni's mother is your biological younger brother. With this bloodline here, it is very likely that the blood test will succeed." "Stop!" Nangong Qing's forehead twitched violently as he shouted angrily. The younger brother colluded with his sister-in-law. This was a humiliation that the Nangong family could not mention. "Patriarch, do you think Nangong Uni is similar to you in any way?" Mu Qianqian's voice seemed to have a magical power, causing Nangong Qing to fall silent. Originally, he didn't feel anything, but when he heard Mu Qianqian's words, he felt that Nangong Uni was very suspicious. That slut and her own little brother were in cahoots. Maybe Nangong Uni was also their product. No wonder Nangong Uni didn't listen to him. So he had been deceiving him all along? Bang! Nangong Qing slapped the table. "If he really isn't my son, then I won't let him go. He would never allow anyone to deceive him. Moreover, these days he had given Nangong Qing too much love. How could he endure this kind of disappointment?" "Mu Qianqian, what evidence do you have to prove that Uni isn't my son?" "Patriarch, I brought someone to see you." Mu Qianqian smiled mysteriously and clapped her hands. In an instant, 2 guards brought a man in. Chapter 11:15. This man was thin and handsome. There were a few strands of white hair at his temples and he looked very weathered. Upon seeing this man, Nangong Qing's suppressed anger surged once again. Nangong Chen, you actually dare to appear in front of me. Nangong Chen swallowed his saliva with difficulty and glanced at Mu Qianqian. When he saw Mu Qianqian give him a look, he smiled helplessly and turned to face Nangong Qing. I'm here to reunite with my son. What? Nangong Qing clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. What are you saying? Nangong Chen lowered his eyes to hide the apologetic look in his eyes. Nangong Uni is my son with Fu. Boom! Nangong Qing slammed his fist on the table and instantly, the table broke into 2. His expression was ferocious and terrifying. Say what you just said one more time. Who's your son? Nangong Chen raised his head and looked into Nangong Qing's eyes, which were filled with anger. He said word by word. Nangong Uni is my son. As soon as he said this, Nangong Qing staggered a little. What followed was an even more intense anger. At this moment, he did not see the smiles on Mu Qianqian and her daughter's faces or the flash of pride in their eyes. Nangong Uni, if you're not Nangong Qing's son, let's see how you plan to seize the Nangong family? Coincidentally, Nangong Uni returned at this moment. As soon as he stepped into the Nangong family residence, he felt that the atmosphere was a little off. He was stunned for a moment before he asked, "What happened?" As soon as the question left his mouth, he remembered the words he had heard on the street and continued to ask, "Father, I heard that you made a move against the people from the medical tower? If this guy really wanted to become Yun Luofeng's enemy, then he would definitely stand on Yun Luofeng's side without any hesitation." Ha ha ha. Nangong Qing was so angry that he laughed. "You bastard, how dare you question me? Who gave you the courage to do so? I should have known that you're born from that bitch and another man. You're not my son at all. Otherwise, why would you be so disobedient?" Nangong Yuni's expression darkened. "You better be more respectful when you speak. What do you mean by born with another man? From the beginning to the end, my mother only had you as a man. Humph, you still want to quibble? Your biological father has already come knocking on your door, and you still don't want to admit it." Nangong Qing was furious. "I've been so good to you, but I didn't expect that all I did was raise someone else's son. Since your biological father has found his way here, none of you can leave." Boom! Nangong Qing suddenly rushed in front of Nangong Uni. His palm fiercely grabbed Nangong Yuni's neck and forcefully threw him to the ground. "Little bastard, don't think that I don't know that you and that woman Yun Luofeng colluded to plot against me. That's right, I really did capture Yun Luofeng's disciple. My goal was to force her to hand over the antidote." Nangong Uni smiled. Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth, and his smile was very bleak. "Why are you always so stupid? Do you believe whatever others say? Because of what this man and Mu Qianqian said, my mother had to bear the crime for so many years. Did you catch them in bed? Or did you see them having sex with your own eyes? No, you didn't see anything. It was because of these people's words that my mother had to bear the crime for so long." Nangong Uni crawled up from the ground and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He raised his head to look at Nangong Qing, and the corner of his mouth curled into a mocking smile. "Your intelligence makes me feel sad." Chapter 11:16. Impudent. Nangong Qing roared angrily. Every time he thought about how his son, whom he had placed all his hopes on, was a bastard child, the rage in his heart would surge uncontrollably. "Guards, lock Nangong Uni up. We'll deal with him later." "Yes, master." Hearing this, the 2 guards stepped forward and grabbed Nangong Yuni's arms. Nangong Uni raised his hand and fiercely flung the guards' hands away. He then swept his cold gaze across Nangong Qing and said expressionlessly, "One day, you will regret what you've done today." After he had spoken, he glanced at Mu Qianqian and the smile on his face became even more disdainful. "If you don't want anyone to know, don't do it. You're on your own." After saying these words, Nangong Uni waved his sleeves and left in a carefree and unrestrained manner under the escort of 2 guards. Once he had walked out of the great hall, he felt his legs turn to jelly and his back was drenched in sweat. He was really afraid that Nangong Qing would kill him in a fit of rage. Hence, even though he had pretended to be cool, his legs were already trembling in fear. However, he would not show his cowardice and weakness in front of the mother and daughter. Father. Nangong Lan's eyes flashed. Nangong Uni is rather cunning. I'm afraid that the two guards will not be able to keep an eye on him and let him escape. I will personally take him to the prison. Nangong Qing waved his hand and sat down on a chair, looking slightly tired. Go. Yes, father. Nangong Lan joined her fists and walked out of the great hall. No one noticed that the moment she left, a trace of viciousness flashed across her eyes. Nangong Uni, perhaps you never thought that you would fall into my hands one day. Nangong Chun. Nangong Qing could not even look in the direction that Nangong Lan had left. His expression was cold and dark as he looked at the kneeling Nangong Chun and slammed his hand on the table. I've always treated you well, why must you treat me like this? It's fine that you've colluded with Fuer, but why is it that even my beloved son is your bastard child? The more Nangong Qing spoke, the angrier he became. His face turned red with anger as he glared fiercely at Nangong Chun. It was as if he wanted to tear Nangong Chun into a million pieces. Nangong Chun lowered his head. I was indeed in the wrong. You can punish me as you wish. Ha ha ha. Nangong Qing furiously laughed twice. Good, very good. Now that you have fallen into my hands, I will never let you go. Men, take him away. Cut off a piece of his flesh every day until he dies. Hearing Nangong Qing's words, Nangong Chen's body trembled, but he did not raise his head. Two guards stepped forward, lifted his body, and walked out of the hall. When Nangong Chen's body was lifted, he subconsciously looked at Mu Qianqian. His lips moved slightly. His lips were saying, remember your promise to me. Mu Qianqian smiled. Promise? What the hell was that? She had never been one to keep her promises. Now that she thought about it, Nangong Chun was indeed an infatuated man. That year, she had captured his lover and fed her a deadly poison to force Nangong Chun to frame that woman. Nangong Chun had listened to everything she said for the sake of his beloved lover. Even though he had been misunderstood by his own brother, and had spent so many years in hiding, he had never thought of clearing up the matter. Chapter 11:17. What a joke. Nangong Chen's lover was already dead. Yet Nangong Chun continued to work for her. Perhaps he should be thanking her. If it wasn't for her, Nangong Chun wouldn't have the chance to reunite with his lover in the Yellow Springs. In a dark and damp prison cell, Lin Ruobai's body was nailed to the wall. Fresh blood flowed from her wound, dyeing her green clothes red. She looked like she was soaked in a vat of blood, lifeless. Go in. Suddenly, the prison's door was pushed open. Nangong Lan fiercely pushed Nangong Uni inside. Just as Nangong Uni was about to curse out in anger, he suddenly saw Lin Ruobai nailed to the wall. His heart immediately sank, and his low voice was filled with rage. Nangong Lan, what did you do to Yun Luofeng's disciple? Nangong Lan smiled. These nails are made of special materials. They can suppress the rising power in her body. If she continues to grow, she will definitely become a scourge. So, the Nangong family is getting rid of a scourge for the people. Tui. Nangong Uni spat at Nangong Lan's shameless face. He was so angry that his handsome face turned green. Getting rid of a scourge? I think that the people who should be getting rid of are the people from the Nangong family. Nangong Lan's eyes turned cold. In a flash, she rushed in front of Nangong Uni. Her palm was wrapped in a layer of spiritual energy, and she attacked Nangong Uni's chest. At this moment, the ring on Nangong Uni's finger flashed. In an instant, two spiritual beasts, one big and one small, appeared in front of Nangong Lan. Roar! An angry roar caused Nangong Lan to take a few steps back. She narrowed her eyes and stared dangerously at the blood lion in front of Nangong Uni. Don't forget who brought you out of the forest of no return. Is this how you treat me now? The blood lion snorted. It was originally very comfortable in the forest of no return. Who knew that it would accidentally fall into this woman's trap, and leave its home to come here? Don't tell me. I have to thank her? Nangong Uni. When Nangong Lan saw that the blood lion was not listening to her, she turned her gaze towards Nangong Uni and sneered. Don't forget. This is our Nangong family. Do you think that these two spiritual beasts can protect you? Besides, Yun Luofeng's disciple has fallen into my hands. If you don't want her to suffer even more, then call back your spiritual beast. Nangong Yuni clenched his fists tightly. He glanced at Lin Ruobai, who was covered in blood behind him. His eyes darkened. Little lightning, little blood, come back. The twin-winged purple-tailed mink and the blood lion cried out in protest. If they left, Master would definitely be tortured by this woman. You guys go back. Right now, Nangong Lan doesn't have the guts to kill me. Nangong Yuni raised his eyes, his gaze filled with determination. This is an order. Once a spirit beast was tamed, it would obey any order from its master. No matter how unwilling they were, they could only return to the ring. Nangong Lan, let this lady go. Nangong Yuni clenched his fists tightly. If you let her go, I'll let you do whatever you want to me. Nangong Lan glanced at Nangong Yuni. Looks like you have deep feelings for Yun Luofeng. For her disciple, you're willing to sacrifice yourself like this. You'll never understand. There's a kind of feeling called brotherhood. This kind of brotherhood has nothing to do with love. For her, I can lay down my head and spill my blood. I can also stand by her side when she becomes enemies with the entire world. But people like you will never understand the feelings we had before. Chapter 11:18. That kind of feeling had nothing to do with romance or staying together for a lifetime. He would only protect you with everything he had in his limited life. Nangong Lan frowned. She thought that Nangong Yuni sacrificed himself to save Lin Ruobai because he loved Yun Luofeng. Now it seemed that wasn't the case. Friendship? What a joke. She never believed that this kind of feeling existed in this world. Nangong Yuni, you want to save Lin Ruobai? Fine. If you can withstand 10 of my moves, I'll let her go. Nangong Lan sneered. She waved her hand and took out a hammer from her spatial ring. Bang! Her hammer smashed onto Nangong Yuni's back. He clenched his fist and his body slightly swayed. Nangong Yuni, you're not allowed to use your defense. Otherwise, I won't let this woman go. Without using his defense, he was only slightly better than a normal person. How could Nangong Yuni withstand 10 hits in his current state? Nangong Yuni's body trembled. In the end, he still removed all his defenses and exposed his weakness to Nangong Lan. The second hammer smashed down. Nangong Yuni couldn't withstand it and fell to the ground. He propped himself up and tried to get up. However, he felt a heart-wrenching pain. Only when he felt the pain did he realize that his spine had been broken by that hammer strike. You can't take it after just 2 hits? I still have 8 hits waiting for you. Nangong Lan laughed coldly. I want to see how long you can last. Bang! Another hammer fell on Nangong Yuni's back. He felt a fishy taste in his mouth. A mouthful of fresh blood was stuck in his throat, making his throat extremely uncomfortable. On the 4th hit, he felt his upper and lower eyelids fighting. He was powerless to separate them and could only let them close. The 5th hit, he couldn't hold on any longer. His mind was in a state of dizziness. He could only rely on his last bit of willpower to hold on. His mother's grievances hadn't been cleared. Nangong Qing hadn't regretted it. Mu Qianqian and her mother hadn't received their retribution. How could he die here? It was just 10 hits. As a man, how could he not hold on? On the 6th strike, Nangong Yuni felt his back go numb. His entire body lost all feeling. He fiercely clenched his teeth. The pain from the tip of his tongue prevented his will from sinking. Following that, the 7th, 8th, 9th, all of them fell. As long as he could endure this last strike, he would be able to save Lin Ruobai. Nangong Yuni, I didn't expect you to be able to hold on. I wonder if you can withstand this final attack. Nangong Lan raised the iron hammer in her hand high up. All of her spiritual energy was transferred to the iron hammer. Then it streaked across the moist air and suddenly landed on Nangong Yuni's back. Puff! The mouthful of blood that was stuck in his throat was finally spurted out by this hammer strike. The ground in front of him was covered in a pool of blood. It was a ghastly sight. Nangong Lan. Nangong Yuni's voice was very weak, as if it could disappear at any time. I've already endured 10 strikes from you. You must fulfill your promise and let this lady go. Nangong Lan laughed sarcastically. She spread out her hands and asked, Let her go? Did I say anything like that? Who can prove it? You. Nangong Yuni's eyes were burning with anger. Your words don't count. Despicable and shameless. Nangong Lan faintly smiled. She walked in front of Nangong Yuni, lowered her head, and looked down at him from above. It was you who thought that your identity as a bastard child was too shameful. You willingly endured these 10 strikes. What does that have to do with me? Why should I let this woman go? Chapter 11:19. Nangong Yuni's body went soft. He didn't even have the strength to stand up. He stared at Nangong Lan with eyes filled with hatred. If his gaze was a knife, Nangong Lan would definitely be cut into pieces. Hate. Nangong Lan lowered her body and smiled at Nangong Yuni. Back then, when you came to the Nangong family, I felt the same way as you do now. From that moment on, I have been planning how to deal with you. Nangong Lan. Nangong Yuni's voice was very weak. It was so weak that it seemed like it would disappear at any moment. One day I will tear you into pieces. Ha ha ha. Nangong Lan laughed out loud. Dismember the corpse into 10,000 pieces? Nangong Yuni, I'm afraid you don't have that ability. Father was too stupid in the past to protect a bastard like you. This time I will not give you another chance. She raised the hammer in her hand again and fiercely smashed it on Nangong Yuni's ankle. Crack! The sound of bones breaking rang out in the quiet prison. Nangong Yuni gritted his teeth. He pressed on the broken bone on his ankle. He stubbornly and unwillingly stared at Nangong Lan. His handsome pale face was as firm as a mountain. His sharp eyebrows didn't even frown. This broken leg is my reward for stealing father's love for all these years. Now you can enjoy everything in front of you. Haha. Nangong Lan's laughter was crazy. Her sinister face twisted. It was as if torturing Nangong Yuni gave her great pleasure. At the same time, at the entrance of the Nangong family, the metal door was cut in half by a sword. The 2 guards guarding the door didn't even have time to react. They were instantly hit in the chest by a force and fell into the door. At the entrance, a young girl stepped through the door. Her white clothes fluttered in the wind. Her eyes were arrogant and domineering. Her evil black eyes flashed with killing intent. It was as if a gust of wind had been set off around her, making people not dare to get close. Get Nangong Qing out here. Following the young girl's cold shout, Nangong Qing, who was originally discussing in the hall, immediately walked out with a group of elders. When he saw Yun Luofeng, his expression changed slightly. He lowered his head and gave an order to the person beside him. The man accepted the order and hurriedly retreated. Miss Yun, I trust you have been well since we last met. Nangong Qing glanced at the servant who was walking away and smiled insincerely. Yun Luofeng's evil eyes glanced at Nangong Qing. Where's Whitey? What shall buy? Nangong Qing pretended to be confused as he looked at her. Lin Ruobai, my disciple. In other words, the girl you captured on the street. Yun Luofeng slowly approached Nangong Qing. Where is she? Nangong Qing's eyes flickered a few times before he laughed dryly and said, I don't know what you mean by that. We did capture a woman on the street, but that woman had already become a demon. I was afraid that she would threaten the safety of the continent, so I took her away. Milk tea. Rat Queen. Yun Luofeng's gaze turned cold and he ordered coldly, Search for me. Whoever dares to stop me will be killed without mercy. As soon as she said those words, the murderous aura around the young girl grew even stronger. Her fine black hair danced in the wind and her white robes fluttered in the wind. She raised her chin slightly and her peerlessly demonic face was filled with a thick murderous intent. In an instant 2 rays of light flashed and landed in front of Yun Luofeng. Of the 2 people, one was a budding youth and the other was a noble and arrogant woman. Chapter 11:20. In front of Yun Luofeng, the 2 of them lowered their heads and said respectfully, Yes, master. Hua. As soon as they finished speaking, the 2 of them turned into a beam of light and quickly rushed out of the crowd. Their speed was too fast, so fast that no one could catch them. Yun Luofeng looked at Nangong Qing from the corner of her eye. Her arrogant eyes were filled with a domineering aura. If Xiaobai loses a single hair, I will kill one person from your Nangong family. If she leaves a drop of blood behind, I will make everyone from your Nangong family pay tribute to her. Nan Gongqing's face turned ugly. Miss Yun, don't you think you are being too rude and unreasonable? You should be reasonable. Besides, our Nangong family doesn't know that woman is your disciple. No matter what, he had to delay until the ancestral elders arrived. Otherwise, who knew if this woman would go crazy? Boom! Yun Luofeng's aura surged. The wind around her uprooted the surrounding trees and rushed towards Nan Gongqing. Nan Gongqing didn't have time to react. The trees were already in front of him. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd with a bang, his entire body was buried by the trees. Cough cough. Nan Gongqing coughed twice and climbed up from under the tree. He looked at Yun Luofeng with an ashen face. Miss Yuner is your friend. Why must you be so heartless? It's useless even if you bring up Nangong Uni. I will still say the same thing. If Xiaobai loses a drop of blood, I will make your 3 great families die with her. As soon as he finished speaking, an old and disdainful voice came from the void. Such big words. I don't know what ability you used to destroy my 3 great families. Gradually, several figures appeared from the void. These people were all dressed in gray robes. They had the demeanor of immortals and looked down on all living things. The person who had just spoken looked similar to Nan Gongqing. From this, it could be seen that this old man was from the Nangong family. What ability do I have? Won't you know after you try? Yun Luofeng smiled. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Her deep black eyes were filled with evil. Ha ha ha. The gray-robed old man laughed wildly. Good. Then I want to see what kind of ability a little girl like you has. Whoosh! The instant he finished speaking, the gray-robed old man had already charged down. His speed was extremely fast, and he arrived in front of Yun Luofeng in an instant. The old man's attack was swift and fierce, and his moves were extremely ruthless. He aimed for Yun Luofeng's vital points. Yun Luofeng dodged to the side when she saw the old man's swift and fierce palm wind. Then, the sword in her hand drew a sword wind and landed on the old man's waist. The old man laughed coldly and easily dodged Yun Luofeng's sword before launching the next wave of attacks. Let's go together. The other elders frowned. They clearly did not think that Yun Luofeng would be able to dodge a saint's attack with his power. Therefore, they did not even stop to think as they quickly charged towards the young lady below. At this moment they'd long since disregarded their face, and they only wanted to subdue Yun Luofeng as quickly as possible. At this moment, a crowd had already gathered outside the Nangong family's gate. These people had all witnessed the conflict between Lin Ruobai and the 3 aristocratic families. Hence, when Yun Luofeng came to settle the score with the Nangong nobles, they had all followed him. Chapter 11:21. Their goal was to see whether the medical tower would emerge victorious in this battle, or whether the 3 great families' territories would remain as stable and unshakable as a mountain. Whoosh! Just as the elders were rushing towards Yun Luofeng, countless vines suddenly appeared on the ground. These vines were like swimming dragons as they tried to entangle the elders. One of the elders was caught off guard and was entangled by the vines, unable to move. When his companion saw this, he immediately pulled out his sword and tried to cut off the vines. However, the vines were as strong as steel. His sword could not cut them off. What is this? His face was pale and his eyes were filled with fear. Why can't I cut it off with my strength? Just as he was about to retreat, the vines suddenly attacked him from the side. However, he did not notice this at all. If it was not for Nangongqing's scream, perhaps he would have coincidentally dodged the vine. However, Nangongqing screamed instead. Elder Oshing, be careful. When he heard this, Oshing instinctively paused. And because he stopped, the vines instantly wrapped around his body. The entire Nangong family became deathly silent. The previously arrogant elders could only dodge the vines that could not be cut off. They had no time to spare to deal with Yun Luofeng. At this moment in the dark and damp prison, Nangong Lan stepped hard on Nangong Yuni's back. Her lips curled into a cold smile. She bent down and said in a sinister voice, Nangong Uni, are you in pain? Don't worry, just beg me. Maybe I will let you die a quick death. Nangong Uni closed his eyes. His actions had already expressed his inner thoughts. Even if he died, he would not beg for mercy. Alright, you have a backbone. Since that's the case, I will first gouge out your eyes, then cut off your limbs. I want to see how tough you can be. Nangong Lan flipped Nangong Yuni's body over. A dagger suddenly appeared in her hand and she gestured at his eyes. Tell me, should I gouge out your left eye or right eye first? Nangong Lan laughed coldly. Of course, if you insult Yun Luofeng, I'll leave one of your eyes. If you say that I'm prettier than Yun Luofeng, that I'm more talented than Yun Luofeng, then I'll leave both of your eyes behind. Nangong Yuni still didn't utter a single word. His eyes were tightly shut, and his demeanor of facing death with equanimity completely infuriated Nangong Lan. Nangong Yuni, I'm telling you, Yun Luofeng is no match for me. A fierce look flashed across Nangong Lan's eyes. For her to be able to break through to this realm, she must have used something to raise her strength. Just based on talent, even 10 Yun Lufengs cannot compare to one of me. As for looks, I am the #1 beauty of Endless City. What does Yun Luofeng count as? Men who think she's prettier than me are all blind. All these years, Nangong Lan had to disguise herself outside, so she vented all her emotions on Nangong Yuni. You don't want to insult her? Fine. Then I'll cut off your tongue as well so that you won't be able to say a single word in the future. Her dagger moved from his eyes to his lips, and then fiercely pried open Nangong Yuni's lips. Her smile was sinister and terrifying. Nangong Yuni felt the coldness on the tip of his tongue. His body trembled slightly, but he eventually regained his calm. He opened his eyes and looked at Nangong Lan with pity. Indeed, this Nangong Lan was too pitiful. Right now, she could only use these words to numb herself. Chapter 11:22. Nangong Yuni, you're courting death. Nangong Yuni's gaze pierced Nangong Lan. She could cut off his tongue with just a little force. Bang! At this moment, the prison door was blasted open by a force. She was so shocked that her hand trembled and she couldn't hold on to the dagger in her hand. You are. Nangong Lan turned her head angrily. Just as she was about to curse, she saw Milk Tea and Queen Rat in the prison. She was so scared that her face turned pale. Why are you here? It was impossible for her not to recognize the two people beside Yun Luofeng. But what she couldn't figure out was why these two people would appear here. Nangong Yuni heard Nangong Lan's voice and his tired eyes slightly lifted. He turned to look at Milk Tea and Queen Rat. His expression finally relaxed. Yun Luofeng came? That's right, it must be because she came that her two subordinates would appear here. Xiaobai. Milk Tea saw Lin Ruobai, who was nailed to the wall with a single glance. She hurriedly ran over with an anxious expression on her face. The nails on her body are quite special. If we pull them out by force, Xiaobai's soul might scatter. This won't do. We have to get Master to save Xiaobai. Queen Rat didn't speak. Her cold phoenix eyes swept towards Nangong Lan. Are you prepared to receive my master's wrath? Nangong Lan's expression changed and she snorted. Our three families have the protection of the ancestral elders. Who does Yun Luofeng think he is? He's no match for the ancestral elders. Queen Rat. Seeing that Queen Rat wanted to continue speaking, Milk Tea had already walked over. Xiaobai's condition is too bad. Under the influence of these nails, her soul is very weak. If we don't treat her in time, she might not be able to be saved. We'll go find Master now. Also, Milk Tea pointed at Nangong Yuni, who was lying on the ground. This guy is Master's friend. I'll bring him along. You capture this woman and hand her over to Master. After saying this, Milk Tea walked towards Nangong Yuni, who was covered in blood. He looked at Nangong Yuni's injuries and his expression suddenly changed. His spine is fractured, his legs are fractured, and his internal organs are damaged. His injuries are extremely serious. Fortunately, our master's medical skills are excellent, and he should be able to be saved. If it was someone else, even if he was saved, he would only be a cripple. Milk Tea squatted down and carried Nangong Yuni. After enduring the pain for so long, Nangong Yuni finally couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Using his extremely weak voice, he asked, "Can you be a little gentler?" "No." Milk Tea snorted. "Who asked you to be so stupid to go against the Nangong family single-handedly?" Nangong Yuni bitterly laughed. "I also didn't expect it to be like this. As soon as I returned to the Nangong family, I was locked up by them." He had originally heard that the three great clans had captured Lin Ruobai and wanted to come back to investigate the situation. Who would have thought that he would be labeled as a bastard upon his return? If something like this happens again, wait for my master. Don't try to act tough alone. Milk Tea glared at Nangong Uni. She raised her hand and patted his back. This bit of pain is for you to remember. Although Milk Tea's words were very impolite, Nangong Uni could still hear the concern in her voice. His lips couldn't help but curl into a smile. You've hurt Master's disciple and friend. Queen Rat coldly walked to Nangong Lan's side. So, even if you had 100 lives, it wouldn't be enough. Chapter 11:23. Nangong Lan was so frightened that she wanted to take 2 steps back. Her face was pale. The Rat Empress did not give her a chance to escape. She grabbed her by the collar and walked out of the cell. Not everyone can withstand the master's anger. The Nangong family. In the courtyard, Yun Luofeng's chi was as sharp as a sword. He coldly stared at the people who were hiding under the vine's attacks. If we continue like this, she will catch us one by one. Therefore, we must kill her first. Only when she is dead will the vines stop. The gray-robed elder glared at Yun Luofeng and gritted his teeth. In an instant, the surviving elders stopped hiding and used all their strength to charge towards Yun Luofeng. Go to hell! Following this angry roar, an elder in the sky slammed his palm towards Yun Luofeng's head. His eyes were extremely cold and his chi was like a rainbow. Everyone believed that if this palm landed, Yun Luofeng's brain would definitely explode, and he would die without a complete corpse. Boom! Suddenly, a barrier appeared above the young girl's head and blocked the elder's attack. At the same time, the barrier exploded. The powerful force of the explosion made the elder take 2 steps back. I heard that the method you used to capture my apprentice was to use an innocent person? Yun Luofeng raised her eyes and looked at the elders who were rushing towards her one after another. You used an innocent person to capture my apprentice. How will I settle this debt with you? The young girl's power surged and her black hair danced in the wind like a waterfall. She looked peerless and domineering. In the blink of an eye, the elders were already in front of her. All of them unleashed their most powerful attacks and planned to kill Yun Luofeng. No one hesitated. If they hesitated, they would be entangled by the vines. Yun Luofeng, you are extremely audacious. Today we will kill you and tell the world that the 3 aristocratic families cannot be shaken. As for your apprentice, she deserves it. Boom! Boom boom boom. Countless Holy Spirit cultivators' power surged into the sky, causing the sky to darken. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Under the fierce wind, the young girl's expression did not change. She was charming and cold, and her deep black eyes were like a vast ocean, so deep that they seemed to be able to attract people. At the same time, countless swords floated around her. These swords floated in the air, emitting a bone-chilling coldness. Hua! When the elders arrived in front of Yun Luofeng, the long swords finally moved. They flew towards the elders in an orderly manner, and as they sliced through the air, they left behind deep shadows. When I was in the medical tower, I said this. Those who obey me, you will have the world. Those who defy me, you will have hell. Poochie! The long swords blocked the attacks of the elders. It was as if a wave of power had ruthlessly struck their chests, causing them to immediately feel a bone-piercing pain. One of the elders seemed to have sensed something and raised his head in shock. You're a Holy Spirit? Holy Spirit. The master of the medical tower was actually a Holy Spirit? Yun Luofeng's lips curled up coldly. I'm sorry, I just happened to break through to the Holy Spirit level last night. Rumble. It was like thunder rolling in the sky. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Lin Ruobai was able to fight with these elders, but they could see that his body had changed, causing his strength to increase rapidly. But Yun Luofeng had truly become a Holy Spirit. Chapter 11:24. She wasn't even 20 years old. There had never been such a genius in history. Holy Spirit practitioner? Impossible. You said that you broke through to Holy Spirit practitioner last night, but a Holy Spirit practitioner's breakthrough would cause a commotion. Why didn't we notice it? The gray-robed elder gritted his teeth and asked. There's no need for you to know about this. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows, showing his arrogance. His beautiful figure stood in the wind, so beautiful that people couldn't look away. The vines didn't launch a surprise attack this time. Instead, they wrapped around the elders' bodies and tied them tightly to their bodies. The elders' faces turned pale from the initial shock. Finally, they looked defeated, as if they were facing death calmly. Master! Suddenly, an anxious voice came from the side. Yun Luofeng turned around and saw Milk Tea carrying Nangong Yuni as she walked over quickly. Nangong! Yun Luofeng was stunned. In a flash, he appeared next to Milk Tea and took Nangong Yuni's body. Anger surged in his heart. Who hurt him like this? No wonder Nangong Yuni didn't come out when she caused such a commotion. So even Nangong Yuni had fallen into their hands. Nangong Qing's expression was very ugly. He didn't think that Nangong Lan would torture Nangong Yuni like this. Fortunately, this kid was no longer his son. Otherwise, he would definitely die of heartache. Master! The Rat Empress walked over and threw Nangong Lan on the ground. She raised her head and looked at Yun Luofeng. Master Nangong was hurt by this woman. Yun Luofeng's brows furrowed even tighter. Where's Xiaobai? You didn't find Xiaobai? Milk Tea and the Rat Empress looked at each other. Even though they couldn't bear it, they still answered truthfully. Master, Xiaobai was nailed to the wall by a soul nail. The Rat Empress and I didn't dare to act rashly, so we came to find you to save Xiaobai. Soul nail? The anger in Yun Luofeng's heart grew stronger and stronger. He glanced coldly at everyone from the Nangong family. I said that if she bleeds even a drop of blood, everyone from the 3 great families will die. But not only did you make her bleed, you also made her suffer such pain. So I will make you suffer for eternity. Rat Empress, take care of these people. Milk Tea, come with me to save Little White. As he spoke, Yun Luofeng had already flashed into the distance. Thus, only the echoes of his words could be heard in the courtyard. Yun Luofeng followed behind Milk Tea and quickly entered the cell. When she saw Lin Ruobai nailed to the wall, her heart clenched fiercely. Milk Tea, move aside. I'll help her remove the soul nail. The soul nail could suppress the spiritual qi in a cultivator's body. At the same time, it could also consume a human soul until the soul dissipated. After Milk Tea retreated, Yun Luofeng gathered all the spiritual energy in her palm. Her palm landed lightly on Lin Ruobai's head. Her tone was no longer as domineering as before. Instead, it was gentle. Xiaobai, I'm sorry. I've come late. When you left Spiritual God Mountain and chose to follow me, I had already made up my mind to ensure your safety. But, in the end, I still couldn't protect you. You were injured again and again. However, I can make anyone who hurts you pay a price 1,000 times worse than you. Lin Ruobai didn't make a sound. If it wasn't for the faint beard at the tip of her nose, perhaps Yun Luofeng would have thought that she had already passed away. Xiaobai, when I help you remove the soul nail, it will hurt a little. You must endure it no matter what. Chapter 11:25. Poof! After Yun Luofeng poured her spiritual power into Lin Ruobai's body, her body suddenly trembled, and a soul nail was forced out of her body. However, there were still hundreds of soul nails in Lin Ruobai's body. These soul nails were connected to the soul, and if one wasn't careful, the soul would suffer irreparable damage. Therefore, Yun Luofeng was very careful with every step. Afraid that she would hurt Lin Ruobai's soul, time was racing against time, and the sky outside the prison also darkened. Unknowingly, Yun Luofeng's back was already soaked in sweat, and it stuck to her back tightly. Milk Tea clenched her small fists tightly and looked at Yun Luofeng worriedly. Master, why don't you rest for a while? If this goes on, your body won't be able to take it. Yun Luofeng didn't seem to hear Milk Tea's words. The spiritual power in her body flowed freely into Lin Ruobai's body, completely ignoring the consequences of her body drying up. Fortunately, the Divine Grimoire's space could provide her with spiritual power. Otherwise, she would have collapsed long ago. Even so, the Divine Grimoire's supply couldn't compare to the supply she gave to Lin Ruobai. That peerlessly beautiful and moving face had already become pale and colorless at this moment. The nails in Lin Ruobai's body decreased, and the number of soul nails piled up on the ground increased. Perhaps because the soul nails were removed, Lin Ruobai's soul was stimulated, causing her brows to involuntarily furrow, as if she was enduring a great deal of pain. Finally, under Yun Luofeng's coercion, the last soul nail was forced out of her body. Her body also uncontrollably fell to the ground. Xiaobai! Yun Luofeng's footsteps staggered slightly, and she propped herself up so that she didn't fall. When she looked up, she saw Lin Ruobai's body suddenly fall down. She quickly took 2 steps forward and tightly hugged her fallen body. After the soul nails were removed, Lin Ruobai's brows also relaxed. Her expression was very peaceful as she quietly fell into Yun Luofeng's arms. Yun Luofeng hugged Lin Ruobai's body tightly, and her expression was very calm. So calm that it was like the calm before the storm. Master! Milk Tea opened her mouth, and her eyes gazed at Yun Luofeng with concern. Even though Yun Luofeng was expressionless, Milk Tea could feel that her heart was bleeding. Milk Tea, put away the soul spikes. I still have use for them. Yun Luofeng's slender fingers gently stroked Lin Ruobai's hair. A warm smile appeared on her beautiful face. Xiaobai, sleep in peace. I will avenge you. After saying this, Yun Luofeng carefully placed Lin Ruobai on the ground. She took out a few silver needles from her ring and pierced them into Lin Ruobai's temples. Master? Milk Tea saw Yun Luofeng's actions and asked curiously, "What are you doing?" Yun Luofeng stood up. Lin Ruobai's soul is heavily injured, and I don't have any medicinal ingredients to help her recover her soul strength at the moment. If she doesn't recover soon, her soul will quickly dissipate, so I used a needle to seal her soul in her body. I'll wake her up after I find the medicinal ingredients. Master, put Lin Ruobai in the grimoire space. Little Mo's voice sounded from within his soul. The spirit chi in the temple space can help her repair her body, so that her body will not be damaged. Yun Luofeng was startled. Only spirit beasts can enter the divine grimoire space? Chapter 11:26. Master, you've sealed Lin Ruobai's soul, so she's now a body without a soul. The divine grimoire won't reject her entry. Little Mo explained patiently. Yun Luofeng nodded. All right, then I'll put her in the divine grimoire first. Next, it's time for me to settle the score with these people. As she finished speaking, she waved her hand and the girl lying on the ground disappeared without a trace. Then she turned and walked out of the prison. At this moment, the girl's aura was terrifying. She was like a demon from hell, so powerful that it made people feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. The Nangong family. Inside the courtyard, under the pressure of the Rat Queen, no one dared to move. Like birds startled by the mere twang of a bough, their eyes were filled with fear. In the past, they could still rely on the ancestral elders. Unfortunately, the ancestral elders had already been tied up by vines. Having lost their protection, they didn't even dare to run away. Amidst this fear, Yun Luofeng slowly walked over from the front. The cold moonlight shone down, enveloping the girl's snow-white dress. However, it couldn't cover up her terrifying aura. With every step she took, everyone's hearts trembled. The fear in their eyes had already turned into despair. Yun Luofeng. Nangong Yuni was startled when he saw Yun Luofeng come alone. You couldn't save your disciple? Yun Luofeng shook her head. I've already sent her to a safe place. Don't worry. I'm here now to settle the score with the Nangong family. Her aura didn't change. Her evil eyes turned towards Nangong Qing. Previously, I gave you a chance because of Nangong Yuni, but I didn't think that you wouldn't take advantage of it. Nangong Qing's expression changed. You said you gave me a chance because of her? What a joke. If you really thought of him as a friend, you wouldn't have fed me poison. Yun Luofeng's black eyes were deep and serene. What I gave you wasn't poison but a great tonic. Originally, I wanted Nangong to tell you everything when he returned. Who knew that you wouldn't give him the chance? A great tonic. Nangong Qing's eyes widened and his body trembled. You're lying to me. This is impossible. Absolutely impossible. If you don't believe me, you can feel the power in your body. Is it much stronger than before? Yun Luofeng's voice was very calm. So calm that no emotion could be heard. Nangong Yuni clearly knew that the current Yun Luofeng was so angry that he wanted to kill someone. However, in order to make Nangong Qing regret for the rest of his life, she temporarily suppressed the anger in her heart. Nangong Qing was shocked and quickly sat down cross-legged. As he inspected his body, his expression became more and more unsightly. That's right. This was not a poison. Instead, it strengthened his physique. The funny thing was that he actually thought that it was poison and didn't hesitate to commit such a huge mistake. I gave you the tonic for Nangong. If you weren't Nangong's father, I would have treated you the same as the other 2 aristocratic families. The girl's evil and awe-inspiring voice cut through the void and fell into everyone's ears. Nangong Yuni looked at the young girl standing in the wind, and the corners of his lips curled into a smile. Yun Luofeng was a person who cherished old friendships. Even if she didn't like Nangong Qing, she would still have shown mercy for him. Unfortunately, Nangong Qing didn't properly cherish this opportunity. As a result, he was reduced to eternal damnation. Chapter 11:27. Nangong Qing staggered to his feet and shook his head. His face was pale as he said, Why did this happen? Oh right, you said you were merciful because of Nangong Yuni. But Nangong is not my son. He's just a bastard. If you knew this, you would still have poisoned me. Ha ha ha. After he finished speaking, Nangong Qing started laughing maniacally. His bloodshot eyes were fixed on Nangong Yuni. Yun Luofeng subconsciously turned to look at Nangong Yuni before looking at Nangong Qing. You said that Nangong is not your son? Where is the evidence? Nangong Qing laughed mockingly. His mother is a bitch. Back then, I loved her so much, but she had an affair with my brother and gave birth to that bastard, Nangong Yuni. The funny thing is that I was kept in the valley and even planned to pass the Nangong family to Nangong Yuni. Your brother? Nangong-chan? Yun Luofeng laughed coldly. Milk tea, Rat Empress, bring Nangong-chan to me. Nangong Qing was stunned. He didn't understand how Yun Luofeng knew Nangong Chen's name. Just as he finished speaking, Milk Tea and the Rat Empress disappeared. The gold-seeking rats were very fast and were very good at finding people. Hence, it didn't take long for the tortured Nangong-chan to be brought before them. Mu Qianqian and her daughter had a bad feeling when they saw Nangong-chan being brought here. Behave yourself. Milk Tea threw the struggling Nangong-chan on the ground and warned him fiercely. Nangong-chan was confused. He looked at the ancestral elder who was tied up by the vines and then at the pale Nangong Qing. He clearly didn't understand what was going on. At this moment, a bone-chilling voice came from beside him, causing his body to freeze. Do you know Yang Shui? Yang Shui? Nangong-chan was stunned. He quickly raised his head and stared at the beautiful girl next to him. What do you mean? The girl's lips curled into a cold smile. Her black eyes were deep. Your first love, Yang Shui, is already dead. Boom! Nangong Chen's body trembled. He quickly got up from the ground and angrily charged at Yun Luofeng. Bang! Before he could reach Yun Luofeng, the girl lifted her leg and kicked him into the crowd. Nangong Chan coughed twice and spat out a mouthful of blood. His handsome face looked hideous. Nonsense! Shui can't be dead. She's definitely not dead. If you don't believe me, you can ask Mu Qianqian to bring her here. You can see if she will hand over your men. In an instant, everyone's eyes focused on Mu Qianqian's face. Mu Qianqian's face turned pale and she glared angrily at Yun Luofeng. Don't you try to frame me. I don't know this Yang Shui. I don't even know who she is. Suddenly, Nangong Chun got up again and dashed toward Mu Qianqian. Mu Qianqian didn't have Yun Luofeng's reflexes, so her clothes were instantly grabbed by Nangong Chan. His face was ferocious as he roared. Mu Qianqian, what did you promise me? As long as I listen to you and frame Nangong Yuni and his mother, you'll let Shui go. It's been more than 20 years. Where have you hidden my Shui in these 20 years? Return her to me. Return her to me. Nangong Chan screamed at the top of his lungs. His blood-red eyes looked as if he wanted to devour someone. Chapter 11:28. You lunatic, let go of me. Mu Qianqian raised her hand and slapped Nangong Chan across the face. She was so angry that her entire body was trembling. I've already said that I don't know who Yang Shui is. I don't know what you're talking about either. Where am I supposed to find someone for you? Nangong Chan burst into laughter. As he laughed, tears began to stream down his cheeks. Mu Qianqian, I shouldn't have listened to you and framed Nangong Yuni and his mother. Otherwise, I wouldn't have harmed two innocent people. In the end, I couldn't even save Shui. Don't think that I don't know that Nangong Lan is not my big brother's daughter. She's a bastard child that you had after a night of flirting with another man. In order to find a scapegoat, you plotted against my big brother while he was drunk. Nangong Chen's lips curled into a sarcastic smile. He recalled everything that he had done for the past 20 years. He really wanted to give himself 2 tight slaps across the face. However, After hearing his words, Nan Gongqing's body froze. He widened his eyes in disbelief and glared at Nan Gongchen. What did you just say? Fu was wrongly accused by you? Is really my son? He must be lying. This is impossible. Nan Gongchen sneered. Big brother, you're really stupid. You believe everything that Mu Qianqian and I say. Your beloved woman has never betrayed you. Is indeed your son. Boom! As if a bolt of lightning had struck his head, Nan Gongqing's face turned as red as a pig's liver. His body trembled as he looked at Nan Gongyuni, who was covered in wounds. He felt a pang in his heart. Fu did not betray me. Is really my son. What on earth is he doing? He chased away his beloved woman and caused his only son to suffer such serious injuries. You're lying. Nan Gonglan charged towards Nan Gongchen like a madman. Her fists hammered fiercely on his body. I'm the daughter of the Nan Gong family. I'm my father's child. You dare accuse me of shielding Nan Gongyuni? Who does Nan Gongyuni think he is? What right does he have to be my father's son? Nan Gongchen did not dodge and allowed Nan Gonglan to hammer him fiercely. At this moment he was already prepared to die. Since Shuer was already dead, what was the point of him living on? If he couldn't protect her when she was alive, he wouldn't let anyone hurt her when he was in hell. Nan Gongqing looked at Nan Gongyuni with a pained expression. His face was filled with guilt. Father is too much of a bastard. I actually thought that you were Nan Gongqin's bastard. It's father's fault. Father has let you down. He begged for Nan Gongyuni's forgiveness not only because Nan Gongyuni was his son, but also because he had a good relationship with Yun Luofeng. If Nan Gongyuni forgave him, Yun Luofeng would definitely let him go for his sake. Unfortunately, Nan Gongqing had guessed wrongly this time. The Nan Gong family had harmed Xiao Bai. They would not be able to atone for their sins even if they were to die 10,000 times. What's more, Nan Gongyuni saw through his thoughts with a single glance. He turned his head and ignored him. Not to mention that he had no feelings for his father. Even if he did, he would still stand by Yun Luofeng's side. Plop! Nan Gongqing suddenly knelt on the ground, tears of regret streaming down his face. I won't ask for your forgiveness. I only hope that you can let me go on account of how well I've treated you in the past. Furthermore, using the soul spikes to deal with Lin Ruobai was the ancestral elder's idea. I wasn't the one who injured you. I'm innocent. Chapter 11:29. Even now, Nan Gongqing was still trying to absolve himself of his mistakes and wanted to push all the blame onto someone else. From the moment you thought I was a bastard, you were no longer my father. Nan Gongyuni's face revealed a cold smile. I won't feel any sympathy for you. Was he ruthless? Did he really not care about how well Nan Gongqing treated him? No. It was because he understood Nan Gongqing's personality. This man was vicious and merciless. He would not stop until he reached his goal. Now that the Nan Gong family had fallen in Yun Luofeng's hands, how could he let it go? No matter how much Nan Gongqing loved him, it couldn't compare to his friendship with Yun Luofeng over the years. For Yun Luofeng, he would not be soft-hearted. Nan Gongyuni, Nan Gongqing said angrily. Are you really so heartless? I'm still your father. If you kill your father, won't you be struck by lightning? Nan Gongyuni wanted to continue speaking, but Yun Luofeng raised his hand and stopped her. You don't need to find trouble with Nan Gong. The young girl raised her eyebrows. Even if he pleads for you, I won't spare anyone from the three great families. Nan Gongqing's face was ashen. His eyes filled with despair. Suddenly, the young girl's domineering voice appeared in everyone's mind. Those who obey me, you have the world. Those who defy me, you can walk through hell. If they submitted to her, with her strength, they could have a share of the world in the future. But if they defy her, they could only walk in that endless hell. Previously, you used soul nails to nail Xiao Bai to the wall, causing her to suffer great pain. Now, I will return this pain to you 1,000 times over. Yun Luofeng extended his hand towards Milk Tea. Milk Tea, give me the soul nails you just picked up. Milk Tea didn't know what Yun Luofeng wanted to do, but she still took out the soul nails. Use fire to burn these soul nails for a full 7 days. Then soak them in poison lingji juice for 5 days. After drying them, nail these people to the pillars. After 49 days, their souls will fly away and scatter. These people had only used ordinary soul nails on Lin Ruobai, which could only consume her soul, causing her to suffer the pain of her soul being consumed. Moreover, it required hundreds of soul nails to have this effect. But after Yun Luofeng changed these soul nails, they were no longer like this. A single soul spike was enough to make them experience pain that was thousands of times worse than what Lin Ruobai had experienced. Lin Ruobai's soul was being consumed, and his strength was being locked away. Their souls, on the other hand, felt like they were in purgatory at all times. How could an ordinary person endure that kind of pain? Unfortunately, the purgatory was burning their souls, so they couldn't faint even if they wanted to. More importantly, the soul nails that Lin Ruobai was enduring would cause her soul to scatter within 10 days. In other words, she only had to endure 10 days of pain. However, the soul nail that had been modified by Yun Luofeng only lasted for 49 days before its soul dissipated. No! Nangong Lan screamed. Yun Luofeng, are you even human? How can you be so vicious? I definitely don't want to be tortured like this. Her body was trembling and her face was pale. Vicious. Yun Luofeng laughed coldly. When you tortured Whitey, did you ever think of being vicious? When you broke Nangong Lan's bones, did you ever think that you were too vicious? I, Yun Luofeng, do not repay evil with good. I only know how to fight poison with poison. Chapter 1130. Nangong Lan's body softened and she fell to the ground. She opened her beautiful eyes in despair. Her eyes were empty and lifeless. Milk tea, I'll leave the punishment for these people to you. Rat Empress, bring the Rat clan to watch over the other two families. I'll go back and treat Nangong first. I'll settle the score with the other two families later. News of what she had done to the Nangong nobles would soon reach those two families. Hence, she had asked the Rat Empress to lead the Rat clan's troops to detain them. This was to prevent those people from escaping secretly. Hiss! When Yun Luofeng bent down to carry Nangong Yuni's body was pulled by her. He grimaced in pain. Yun Luofeng, are you still a woman? Can't you be gentler? Yun Luofeng glanced at him. There's no need to be gentle with you. Nangong Yuni's handsome face darkened and he complained. You master and servant really have the same virtue. It's really like master like pet. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng slightly narrowed his eyes. He used his palm to forcefully slap Nangong Yuni's broken bones. Nangong Yuni cried out in pain. Yun Luofeng. He gritted his teeth and called out. Nangong, you were injured by Nangong Lan to this extent? Yun Luofeng's lips curled into an evil smile. Where are the spiritual beasts I gave you? Nangong Yuni said embarrassedly. Nangong Lan used your disciple's life to threaten me. I had no choice but to take back the two spiritual beasts. You've studied in Huaxia for so many years. Is your brain filled with glue? Yun Luofeng sneered. She threatened you and you took back the spiritual beasts? If capturing Xiaobai was just to make me hand over the antidote, it wouldn't harm her life. Why can't you even understand this? Furthermore, Yun Luofeng paused. They couldn't kill Xiaobai. Otherwise, they wouldn't have used the soul nails to restrain her. Nangong Yuni rubbed the back of his head. His face was full of shame. I didn't think that much in the moment. Remember, no matter what you do in the future, use your brain to think carefully. Don't be too impulsive. Yun Luofeng looked at Nangong again. You and Xiaobai are both very important to me. I don't wish for anyone by my side to be injured, especially injuries that don't need to be. Nangong Yuni's own strength was not weak, and with the addition of the two spiritual beasts, he was actually beaten to such a state by Nangong Lan. Thank you. Just as Yun Luofeng was about to leave, she suddenly heard a voice coming from her shoulder, causing her to stop in her tracks. Nangong, she smiled. Very soon I will leave the limitless continent. At that time I will wait for you on another continent. I will wait for you to become stronger and find me. Nangong Yuni's voice was filled with unswerving determination. All right, I'll definitely look for you. This was his promise to her. A lifetime commitment. After returning to the medical tower, Yun Luofeng began treating Nangong Yuni's injuries. Because Nangong Yuni's injuries were too severe, it would not be easy to treat him. Therefore, he estimated that it would take a few days before Nangong Yuni's injuries could recover. It was also at this time that Mu Chu, who had been sent by Yun Luofeng to train in the dragon pool, returned. Miss Yun, I've already retrieved the dragon scale from the mission you gave me. I wonder if I can now join your medical tower? Mu Chu's body swayed a little. Half of his face was stained with blood. One of his fingers revealed the eerie white bone, and his clothes were tattered. Chapter 1131. All right. Yun Luofeng nodded slightly as he looked at Mu Chu, who was standing in front of him. Go and rest first. I will get someone to treat your injuries. Also, come with me to the Wu family tomorrow. Mu Chu was startled. He looked at Yun Luofeng happily. Are you saying that you plan to bring me to save my sister tomorrow? He had just returned to Endless City and did not understand what had happened. He did not know how much of a commotion Yun Luofeng's actions had caused in Endless City today. Following the destruction of the Nangong clan, the three great clans were in a state of panic. Especially after they heard about Yun Luofeng's inhumane actions, they panicked and regretted their actions. Patriarch Wu, the O family patriarch, was filled with endless regret. His face was filled with grief. I never thought that Yun Luofeng, that woman, would actually annihilate all the ancestral elders of our three great families by herself. What should we do now? Are we just going to sit here and wait for death? What should we do? Clan Master Wu let out a bitter laugh. His body softened and fell to the ground. His eyes were filled with despair and pain. What else can we do? Are we going to give up everything and escape? Even if we start all over again, it won't be difficult with our strength. It's better than dying here, the O clan master said with determination. Indeed, starting all over again was better than dying here. Then let's leave now. It'll be too late if we're late. The Wu clan master gritted his teeth and stood up. His eyes flashed with determination. The two of them did not even plan to prepare anything and were about to leave in a hurry. However, at this moment, a panicked voice was heard. Master, something bad has happened. The people from the medical tower have surrounded the Wu clan. A servant stumbled over. He sounded like he was about to cry and his eyes were filled with anxiety. What? The Wu clan master's face turned pale. The medical tower is so fast? We're doomed. This time we're definitely doomed. The O clan master's eyes darkened. How is the O clan? He had originally come to discuss how to deal with the medical tower with the Wu clan master. Who knew that Yun Luofeng would attack the Nangong clan? At first they did not think much of it. After all, the elders were here. No matter how strong Yun Luofeng was, he would die in the Nangong clan. However, things didn't go according to plan. When they heard that all the ancestral elders had fallen into Yun Luofeng's hands, they began to panic. If they lost these ancestral elders, the three great clans would only amount to so much. The people from the medical tower also went to the O clan. The servant's voice trembled. They saw that the O clan lord wasn't there, so they burned the O clan to the ground. What? Patriarch O's body swayed a few times and he almost fell to the ground. He stared at the servant with an ashen face. Did you just say that my O clan was burned down by the people of the medical tower? The O clan's clan master's eyes were blood red at this moment. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked as if he wanted to eat someone alive. This scared the servant so much that his whole body trembled. What a good Yun Luofeng. She actually dared to do such an outrageous thing. She won't have a good death. The O clan's master gnashed his teeth in hatred. If Yun Luofeng was in front of him, he would probably want to drink her blood and eat her flesh. Patriarch Wu sat paralyzed on the ground and asked in despair. This time we've already lost. Moreover, they were defeated by a new force in Endless City. Chapter 1132. Patriarch O sneered. His smile was sinister and terrifying, and a ruthless glint flashed in his eyes. That's not necessarily true. Today, after leaving the medical tower, I've asked my daughter to temporarily leave Endless City and go to her fiancé's side. My goal is to prevent her from being accidentally injured in this incident. If my daughter finds out that we've died at the hands of the medical tower, she'll definitely avenge us. Patriarch Wu's eyes dimmed. Even if Oya managed to escape this time, so what if she avenged them in the end? She could no longer save their lives. Whoosh! At that moment, a crowd surged outside the door. Patriarch Wu, who was thinking of countermeasures, saw a group of people walking in from outside the courtyard, and his expression changed completely. The leader of the group was a young girl in white. Even the words peerless beauty were insufficient to describe her beauty. Patriarch Wu and Patriarch O knew that their time was up. Their faces were extremely pale, and their bodies could not help but tremble. Mu Chu. Suddenly, Patriarch Wu caught a glimpse of the man standing next to Yun Luofeng. His expression changed abruptly and he roared angrily, "You traitor, how dare you collude with Yun Luofeng? You want to harm our Wu family? We raised you and your sister for so many years. You're an ingrate." Yun Luofeng's evil eyes glanced at the furious Patriarch Wu, and he said casually, "He has been loyal to you for so many years, and he has already repaid you for raising him and his sister. Furthermore, you used his sister to threaten him, and you even wanted to marry her to a cripple. How is he going to settle this score with you?" Mu Chu's handsome face instantly darkened, and he clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were filled with anger as he stared coldly at Patriarch Wu. "You want to marry my sister to a cripple?" Patriarch Wu did not expect Yun Luofeng to know about this, and his old face was filled with astonishment. "That's right." He came back to his senses and said with a sneer, "I do want to marry her to a cripple, but what can I do about it? That cripple is willing to exchange an extremely precious medicinal herb for her. Your little bitch has been eating and drinking in my Wu family for so many years. Don't you think she needs to take revenge? Do I have to raise her for nothing?" Boom! Mu Chu's anger erupted from the top of his head as he angrily said, "Freeloading? All these years I've been a guard for the Wu family. Aside from food and clothing, what else have I received from the Wu family? We eat plain tea and eat plain food and wear sackcloth clothes. But for so many years we've never even mentioned our monthly allowance, and you're saying that we're freeloaders?" When he thought of the grievances the siblings had suffered all these years, the rage in his heart couldn't help but surge out and spread out in a destructive manner. "Mu Chu, how dare you?" Facing Yun Luofeng, Patriarch Wu didn't dare to say anything. But Mu Chu was a member of the Wu clan, and he had always been loyal. Thus, he completely ignored Yun Luofeng's existence and glared at him. "Who gave you the courage to say such words? If it weren't for the fact that you and your sister are homeless, I wouldn't have taken you in. Now that I've accepted the two of you, you still dare to make other requests? I won't even give you a copper coin, let alone a monthly salary." That's right. In Patriarch Wu's heart, he was already exceptionally benevolent to give the siblings a meal, yet he still dared to ask for a monthly salary? Chapter 1133. Who has given him the face to say something like this? Mu Chu, you must remember that the Wu family has no lack of guards. However, not only are you not grateful to the Wu family, you're even speaking in such a shameless manner. You'd better think about how much the Wu family has done for you. Yun Luofeng crossed his arms over his chest and his lips curled into an evil smile. She did not speak but watched to see how Mu Chu would deal with the Wu family. Mu Chu's eyes slowly filled with disappointment. He had previously been grateful to the Wu family for adopting him. That was why he had obeyed Yun Luofeng and made such a request. However, the Wu family did not seem to remember his years of protection. Instead, they thought that he had received the Wu family's kindness. "That year, in order to protect my cousin's sister, your daughter, I nearly lost my life at the hands of spiritual beasts. However, I've never used this kindness to blackmail the Wu family. I've always played my part as a guard." Master Wu scoffed coldly at the disappointed Mu Chu. "You protected her willingly, I didn't force you. What right do you have to blackmail the Wu family with this?" Mu Chu shook his head. He could no longer speak. Perhaps he should have given up from the moment the Wu family had poisoned his sister in order to force him to go to the medical tower to get close to Yun Luofeng. Tisk tsk, a tree that doesn't want its bark will surely die. A shameless man is invincible. A little girl in fiery red robes took 2 steps forward and stood next to Yun Luofeng. Her tender little face was curled into a mocking smile and her large bright eyes were filled with mockery. "I've lived for so many years and this is the first time I've seen such a shameless person." Master Wu's expression was extremely ugly. He glared at Mu Chu. "What are you still standing there for? Get your ass over here right now." Mu Chu did not move. He stood quietly next to Yun Luofeng and stared expressionlessly at Master Wu. Master Wu's expression became more and more unsightly. He turned to Yun Luofeng and said, Yun Luofeng, you clearly heard what I said to him just now. That's right, Mu Chu is a member of our Wu family. He is also a spy I sent to your medical tower. If you keep him by your side, he will definitely be a threat to you. Since you've betrayed the Wu family, I won't let you off easily either. A ruthless glint flashed across Master Wu's eyes as he glanced at Mu Chu evilly. Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin, his deep black eyes filled with a smile. I already knew about this matter. What did you say? Patriarch Wu was shocked. He did not believe that Mu Chu would have the guts to reveal his identity, unless he didn't want to save his sister. From the first day Mu Chu entered the medical tower, he had already confessed everything. So, I already knew that he was a member of the Wu family. Yun Luofeng's face held an evil smile. As for how I knew that you wanted to marry his sister off to a cripple, that was because I had sent people to keep an eye on her. I have also cured the poison in her body. Patriarch Wu staggered a few more steps back and fell on his chair. Impossible. This is impossible. He didn't believe that he would lose everything. Mu Chu, Yun Luofeng gently raised his eyes. I'll leave the Wu family to you. I hope that you won't disappoint me. Mu Chu's expression was slightly complicated, but he still replied respectfully, Yes, Tower Master. Seeing the people from the medical tower surrounding the Wu family, Patriarch Wu's body trembled and he shouted hoarsely, Yun Luofeng, if you dare to accept Mu Chu, you will regret it. This boy has betrayed me now and he will betray you in the future. Just wait and see, ha ha ha. Chapter 1134. A light flashed across Yun Luofeng's eyes as she fell into deep thought. After a long while, she lifted her head to look at Mu Chu and asked, Have you made the arrangements for your sister? Mu Chu's eyes filled with gratitude when he heard this. I really don't know how to thank you. If it weren't for your help, my sister and I would still be under the Wu family's control. You don't have to thank me. I only need you to repay me with your own power. Yun Luofeng smiled calmly. I'm different from the master of the Wu family. I won't restrict your freedom or deduct your monthly allowance. However, I only have one request. You are never allowed to betray the medical tower. A murderous intent flashed across her eyes as she spoke. A powerful aura spread from her body, so powerful that it made it hard for one to breathe. If I find out that you have the slightest intention of betrayal, you know what I will do. Mu Chu's heart suddenly trembled. With a determined look on his face he said, Tower Master, I will never betray the medical tower. Alright, you may leave. Yun Luofeng waved her hand and leaned tiredly against the chair. She had a lazy expression on her face, and her eyes were gently closed. Yes. Seeing Yun Luofeng's tired look, Mu Chu wanted to say more, but in the end, he cupped his fists and retreated. The moment he left, Yun Luofeng opened her eyes and rubbed the space between her brows. Her voice also carried a hint of exhaustion. Yun Xiao, I'll be able to find you very soon. She had already broken through to become a holy spirit and was now qualified to head to another mainland. Now she only needed to wait for a while. At this moment, in a luxurious palace far from Endless City, a man was half leaning on his head. His fine black hair cascaded down the bed like a waterfall. The man only wore a red cloak under the gauze curtains. His fair body was faintly discernible. He was so beautiful that it was indescribable. If one were to use a common term to describe this man, it would be coquettish slut. Master. A maidservant walked in from outside the door and reported respectfully, News has come from Endless City. The medical tower has destroyed the 3 aristocratic families. Oh. Hearing this, the man raised his head slightly. His hair that covered half of his face scattered to the side, revealing the cinnabar dot between his eyebrows, making him look even more seductive than a woman. If such a man were to disguise himself as a woman, no one would doubt his gender. Her name is Yun Luofeng? A sense of interest flashed in the man's eyes and his lips curled into a smile. Interesting, this woman is very interesting. I haven't seen such an interesting woman in a long time. By the way, what happened to that old man called Lin Yu? The maidservant joined her fists and said, Ever since Yun Luofeng chased Lin Yu out of the medical tower, He has been waiting for an opportunity to take revenge. Master, should we stop him? This old man named Lin Yu was the one who had humiliated Yun Luofeng at the banquet and believed that he would definitely become one of the higher-ups of the Tower of Medicine. Unfortunately, he simply did not know that Yun Luofeng was the tower master of the medical tower. As a result, he was kicked out of the medical tower by Yun Luofeng and joined this faction. Don't worry about him. If he has the ability, let him take his own revenge. The man gently narrowed his eyes and the smile on his lips was seductive. However, that woman is not someone he can handle. Besides, I had asked him to go to the medical tower to get close to Yun Luofeng yet. He had messed it up and even tried to shirk his responsibility. I don't know if he's stupid or if he thinks that I'm stupid. Chapter 1135. The man turned his head slightly. His hair covered the side of his face, revealing his seductive red lips. You can leave first. Report to me if there's any news of Yun Luofeng. Yes, master. The maidservant cupped her fists and left. After the maidservant closed the door, the man slowly sat up on the bed. His long and narrow almond-shaped eyes carried an indecipherable smile. I heard that Yun Luofeng's disciple's soul has been injured. In order to heal his soul, he must consume the fruit of the soul. The man gently stroked his chin and smiled. So, Tian Luo, bring me the fruit of the soul. I'm going to hold a doctor's meeting. We'll use the fruit of the soul as a reward. Yun Luofeng will certainly be tempted to come. He fell silent for a moment before he continued. Also, let Lin Yu hold the fruit of the soul. That day, I'd sent this old fart to the medical tower as a spy to find out Yun Luofeng's power. Who would have thought that he'd offend her? Since that's the case, I'll use this old thing to send him to Yun Luofeng and let her play with him. In the room, a shadow suddenly flashed out. After he cupped his fists towards the man on the bed, he instantly disappeared from the room. The man stared in the direction of the shadow guard's departure and seemed to be mumbling to himself. Yun Luofeng, the one chosen by the divine Dr. Zhu Qian. I'd like to see just how powerful you are. If Yun Luofeng could hear the man's words, he would certainly be extremely shocked. He actually knows that I've received Zhu Qian's inheritance. Then, where did he come from? The man paused and a seductive smile appeared on his beautiful face. If my guess is correct, that disciple of hers should be from there. I don't know if staying by her side is a blessing or a curse. However, the one chosen by Zhu Qian will not fall because of such a small difficulty. I believe that she can go far. A few days later, a piece of news spread across the entire mainland and caused a sensation. The Ji family was the most mysterious force in the land of infinity. It was said that the master of the Ji family was very young, and as beautiful as a flower. She looked like a woman, but her power was extraordinary and she was cruel and merciless. Rumor had it that the master of the Ji family had broken through to the Holy Spirit rank, and her power was comparable to that of the royal family. Now the Ji family wanted to use the soul fruit as revenge and wanted to hold a medical conference. This conference had shocked countless countries. In order to obtain the soul fruit, all the countries had sent their experts. The reason was none other than the fact that the soul fruit could enhance a cultivator's soul. It was a peerless treasure that could only be chanced upon. However, as Master Ji didn't like to meet outsiders, the medical conference wasn't held in Ji City, where Ji family was located. Instead, it was held in the neighboring city. As the host of the conference, Lin Yu received countless bootlicking from the doctors who had arrived. Under the endless praise of these people, he was already so happy that he couldn't tell north from south. At the same time, in the Ji family's residence, a man leaned lazily against the back of the bed on a luxurious bed. His foxy eyes glanced at Tian Luo, who was standing in front of him, and asked, "How did it go?" Reporting to Master, doctors from various countries have already come to participate in the conference. Where's Yun Luofeng? The man narrowed his eyes. This Yun Luofeng was his true target this time. Chapter 1136. She's not here yet. Tian Luo's head was lowered the entire time. His grim voice was filled with respect and no one could see his expression clearly. The man's lips curled into a faint smile, displaying his natural charm. I can wait. We'll hold the meeting once Yun Luofeng has arrived. Also, how's Lin Yu's performance? Flushed with success. These 4 words summed up Lin Yu's recent situation. Let him be. The man smiled faintly. Lin Yu is full of lies, he cannot be allowed to live. Previously, he had humiliated Yun Luofeng in front of everyone. Treat this as a toy that I've sent to Yun Luofeng. As for this fruit of the soul, it's a gift from me to him. Tian Luo lowered his head without a word, but his heart was already filled with sympathy for Lin Yu, who had asked Lin Yu to make two fatal mistakes. First, he had humiliated Yun Luofeng in front of everyone. Next, he had pushed all the blame for his mistakes onto Yun Luofeng, spouting a string of lies. Master hates it when people lie. Based on this alone, Lin Yu must not be allowed to live. Tian Luo, continue to keep an eye on Lin Yu. Report to me when Yun Luofeng arrives. As you wish. Tian Luo joined his fists. His body was like a gentle breeze as he disappeared from where he stood. Spirit City. It was extraordinarily bustling. Lin Yu was all smiles as he welcomed the cultivators who came and went. He was truly flushed with success. How many years has it been? How many years has it been since I felt so pleased with myself? If I had not been lucky enough to join the Ji family, I probably would not have received such treatment. Yun Luofeng, when you had chased me out of the medicine tower that day, did you ever think that I would end up like this? When he thought of the task that the Ji family had given him, his elderly face wrinkled into a chrysanthemum flower as he smiled. In Lin Yu's eyes, Master had asked him to complete this task because he had taken a liking to his power. Otherwise, with so many people in the Ji family, why would he have asked him to host the meeting instead of someone else? Just then, Lin Yu's gaze pierced through the crowd and landed on a peerless figure on the street. The young girl's lips curled into a languid smile as her evil eyes swept across the crowd. Her snow-white robes, coupled with her peerless features, made it impossible for anyone to ignore her. Yun Luofeng. Lin Yu gritted his teeth and burst into laughter. I didn't think that you'd come to participate in the doctor's conference as well. However, you've fallen into my hands this time. I won't let you off. News of the Tower of Medicine's actions in Endless City had yet to spread. As such, Lin Yu did not know that the young girl had already broken through to become a holy spirit. Otherwise, he would definitely not dare to do something that he would regret for the rest of his life. As for how that seductive man from the Ji family knew about this, that was because there were spies from the Ji family in Endless City, so Yun Luofeng's actions could not be hidden from him. Yun Luofeng seemed to feel that someone was staring at her. She looked up and in an instant, a pair of eyes filled with anger and hatred fell into her eyes. Does this count as enemies meeting on a narrow road? Yun Luofeng rubbed his nose, his evil smile carrying a hint of helplessness. However, Lin Yu's power was not enough to make her feel fearful. Lin Yu's eyes were blood red. Those who did not know the truth would think that Yun Luofeng was the person who had killed her father. Perhaps Yun Luofeng had long forgotten what had happened that day, but he could never forget the humiliation of being chased out of the medicine tower. Chapter 1137. Lord Lin Yu, this young lady is... The doctors who had come to participate in the conference were very sharp-eyed. They noticed Lin Yu's blood-red eyes and turned their attention towards Yun Luofeng in unison. A brainless person. Lin Yu scoffed icily as a cold smile hung on the corners of his lips. He placed his hands behind his back and walked towards Yun Luofeng. He then raised his chin and spoke in a domineering manner. Yun Luofeng, I never thought that you'd end up like this. Of course, if you beg me, I'll let you participate in the doctor's conference. Yun Luofeng's evil eyes swept towards Lin Yu and the corners of his lips twitched. Qingmu, take it out. Hearing this, the elderly man next to Yun Luofeng produced an invitation from his lapel and placed it in front of Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng took the invitation and stared coldly at Lin Yu. There was a sense of disdain in his eyes. This is an invitation from the Ji family. I wonder if the words of the master of the Ji family or your orders are more important in this doctor's conference. Lin Yu's eyes narrowed. He never thought that Yun Luofeng would embarrass him on the spot. Instantly, his elderly face sank. Yun Luofeng, I'm in charge of this doctor's conference. I must decide whether you can obtain the fruit of the soul. If you kneel down and beg me now, I'll let you go. Otherwise... He narrowed his eyes and a cold light flashed across his eyes. Get out of my way. Qing Yan's little face turned cold when she saw Lin Yu's rudeness. She stood in front of Yun Luofeng and held her sword horizontally in front of her. I'm talking to your master. What's a little girl like you interrupting? Get out of my way. Lin Yu frowned impatiently. His voice was filled with a cold light. Qing Yan's little face turned frosty. She used the sword in her hand to block Lin Yu, who was about to step forward, preventing him from getting close to Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng stood behind Qing Yan. Her dark eyes were filled with an evil smile and the corners of her lips were curled into a beautiful angle. Just then, a man's voice rang out from outside the crowd. This voice was so soft and numbing that it was very enjoyable to listen to it. I've heard that the master of the Ji family has decided on the participants of this doctor's conference. No one has the right to change the participants without permission. I wonder who gave you the guts to overstep your authority? Behind the bustling crowd, a scarlet robe caught everyone's attention. He was a peerlessly beautiful man. How beautiful was she? Even the most beautiful rose couldn't compare to this man's seductiveness. His red robe fluttered in the wind, and his hair, which was like a waterfall, fluttered in the wind. His gorgeous red lips curled up slightly, and his smile was enough to turn all living things upside down. In particular, there was a cinnabar dot between the man's eyebrows. The red was absolutely gorgeous, and it set off his coquettish temperament incisively and vividly. Yun Luofeng lifted his head and looked at the man who was walking over slowly. A look of surprise flashed in his eyes. This was the first time in her life that she had seen such a beautiful man. However, compared to a man's flirtatiousness, she preferred Yun Zhao's coldness and loyalty. Therefore, her astonishment only lasted for a brief moment before her eyes regained their calmness without the slightest fluctuation. Who are you? Lin Yu's expression sank. This is the Ji family's business. It has nothing to do with you. In the dark, Tian Luo sneered disdainfully when he heard Lin Yu's words. His master's position in the Ji family was unparalleled. The funny thing was that he had the audacity to question his master's identity. He even claimed that his master had no right to meddle in other people's business. Chapter 1138. Well, based on Lin Yu's abilities, he did not have the right to meet his master. You're not qualified to know my identity. The man's long and narrow almond-shaped eyes swept towards Lin Yu. His voice was cold and merciless while his peerlessly beautiful features were filled with a gloomy air. His gaze was so eerie that it made one's heart tremble. Perhaps Lin Yu was frightened out of his wits. His entire body trembled and he did not have the courage to meet the man's gaze. It was as if this man was like a demon god from hell. One look at him and they would be consigned to eternal damnation. Just you wait. His eyes darkened a few times and he coldly snorted as he flung his robe. I indeed don't have the right to refuse you, but the fruit of soul is up to me. If I don't give it to you, you can't get it. After saying his piece, Lin Yu flung his robes fiercely before he turned around and stormed off. The man narrowed his almond-shaped eyes and stared coldly in the direction where Lin Yu had left. His red lips curled into a mocking smile. He seemed to be talking to Yun Luofeng, but also seemed to be talking to himself. For this kind of mad dog, rather than letting him bite you, it's better to beat him to death. Yun Luofeng glanced at the flirtatious man beside him. I'm not a mad dog, so I won't fight with a mad dog. Moreover, if I fight with a mad dog, the only one who will suffer is you. The coquettish man's gaze finally turned towards Yun Luofeng. He gently raised his snow-white chin, his wild eyes staring deeply at the young girl standing in front of him. Don't you feel angry that he treated you like that? Yun Luofeng shrugged his shoulders. You've already said that he's a mad dog. As a human, how can I bicker with a mad dog? Oh, the man raised his eyebrows, and the interest in his eyes intensified. It seems that your temper is not bad. I have underestimated you. He had initially thought that she would not miss the opportunity to teach him a harsh lesson if he presented Lin Yu to her. However, he never expected that this young girl would be so broad-minded. He had gauged the heart of a gentleman with his own mean measure. Who knew where those rumors from the outside world came from? Didn't they say she was narrow-minded? He would never let himself suffer any grievances. If anyone insulted her, would she attack them without saying a word? Who was the one who spread these rumors? Why hadn't he noticed? Just as the man's admiration for Yun Luofeng grew, Lin Yu's shriek rang out from the mansion not too far away. Where did so many gold-seeking mice come from? Someone get these gold-seeking mice off my body. Help! Don't bite my ear. Then a hubbub of noise could be heard. Perhaps the gold-seeking mice had all retreated, so they regained their composure. The man's lips twitched. I take back what I said. Broad-minded? If this woman had a big heart, then he would cut off his head and let Tianluo kick it like a ball. Achoo! Tianluo, who was hiding in the dark, couldn't help but sneeze. He rubbed his nose. He didn't know why, but he suddenly felt a chill down his spine. The mansion turned from its initial clamor into silence. Lin Yu, who had already left, rushed out angrily and glared at Yun Luofeng with fiery eyes. Did you release the gold-seeking mice just now? Yun Luofeng's evil eyes swept over him. Evidence. Aside from you, who else would do such a wicked thing? Lin Yu was so angry that he wanted to kill someone. He never thought that Yun Luofeng would be so sinister. Unfortunately, he couldn't find any evidence at all. Chapter 1139. Yes. Yun Luofeng nodded seriously and pointed at the seductive man next to her. Him. The man suddenly felt as if there was a fishbone stuck in his throat. His seductive face turned awkwardly towards Yun Luofeng. This little girl wants me to take the blame? Woman, we've only met once. There's no need for you to frame me. Even though he could crush Lin Yu as easily as crushing an ant, that did not mean he was willing to take the blame. I don't care which one of you is framing me. I'll show you what I'm capable of. A vicious light flashed across Lin Yu's eyes as he gritted his teeth and spoke. The seductive man's almond-shaped eyes gradually darkened. He had lived for so many years, yet no one had ever threatened him like this. What you're capable of? I'd like to see it for myself. He curled his lips into a particularly sinister smile. If you have the ability, show me what you're capable of. The man slowly walked towards Lin Yu. His aura, which was like a monstrous sea, spread outwards. In the face of this ocean-like aura, Lin Yu was like a small boat. All the man needed to do was stir the waves and he would be completely annihilated. You! Lin Yu's elderly face drained of color as he stumbled back. Are you threatening me? It's not a threat, it's a warning. The man laughed maniacally. Scram. Otherwise, I'll make sure your blood splatters here and now. Lin Yu was so frightened that he almost wet his pants. Without waiting for the man to speak, he immediately scrambled out of the room. When he was 100 meters away from the man, he felt as if his life had been spared. A tiny fly almost dirted my clothes. The man raised his slender fingers and flicked at his clothes. His tightly furrowed brows were filled with disgust. His expression made it seem as if there were germs wherever Lin Yu had stood. Yun Luofeng raised his brows and stared at the seductive man with a forced smile. After a long pause, the man turned towards Yun Luofeng. His slightly raised brows were filled with a wild and domineering air. My name is Jutian. Yun Luofeng narrowed her eyes. There's no need for me to introduce myself. I believe that you already know who I am. Ever since the man had guessed that she was the one who had brought the gold-seeking mice, she understood that he had known about her identity. Only the people of Endless City knew about these things. Even Lin Yu, who had been chased out of the Tower of Healing, would not know about the forces in her hands. The man laughed. His smile was so beautiful that it could cause the downfall of countries and cities. Yun Luofeng, the Tower Master of the Medical Tower, the current ruler of Endless City, a young girl who is not even 20 years old. The corners of Ji Jotian's lips curled into a seductive smile once again. It's true that hearing about you is not as good as meeting you in person. I never thought that you would be as shameless as the rumors say. Yun Luofeng smiled and said, Same to you. No matter how shameless I am, I can't compare to you. If it weren't for you accidentally revealing that you knew me, I don't know how long you would have hidden yourself. Haha. Ji Jotian chuckled. Interesting. It's been a long time since I've been so interested in someone. As expected of that fellow's chosen successor, Yun Luofeng, I, Ji Jotian, haven't admired many people in my life. You're the second. His lips curled into a smile. So, I'm definitely making friends with you. The first person he had admired was the powerhouse Zhu Qian from 10,000 years ago. Zhu Qian, who had once stood at the peak of this mainland but had died an unknown death. Chapter 1140. I'll accept you as a friend. Yun Luofeng extended her hand with a devilish smile. Her black eyes were bright, so bright that Ji Zhoutian's figure was reflected in them. One more friend meant one more way out. Moreover, Ji Zhoutian's strength wasn't bad and his character didn't make her dislike him. So why wouldn't she accept him? Ji Zhoutian held Yun Luofeng's hand, the smile on his beautiful face becoming even wider. Yun Luofeng, to tell you the truth, you don't seem like a woman. Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows. You don't seem like a man either. Ji Zhoutian's voice became sluggish and he shook his head helplessly. This woman wouldn't be satisfied until she angered him to death, right? Tianluo looked at the deflated Ji Zhoutian in shock. His cold expression instantly cracked. Ever since he had followed Master, he had never seen Master suffer any losses. But now he had suffered losses at Yun Luofeng's hands 3 times? This woman, could it be that she was used to restrain his master? Moreover, if it had been anyone else who dared to speak to his master like this, their corpse would have been long gone. But Yun Luofeng had survived. Tianluo wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and looked at the unreasonable scene in front of him in disbelief. It's your first time here, so you probably don't have a place to stay. If you don't mind, you can stay in my courtyard. No need, I'll go find an inn myself. Yun Luofeng shook her head and rejected Ji Zhoutian's good intentions. Ji Zhoutian's lips curled up. Recently, the inn has run out of empty rooms. Even if you look for one, you won't be able to find a place to stay. Why don't you come to my place and stay for a few days? It would also be convenient for him to observe Zhu Qian's successor from a close distance. He wanted to see if this woman really had the ability to bring Zhu Qian's legacy to glory. Yun Luofeng fell silent. After a long time she said helplessly, "Then I can only disturb you for a few days." Ji Zhoutian, who had just suffered a setback at Yun Luofeng's hands, saw the young girl's helpless expression, and his originally unresigned mood instantly calmed down. In fact, his mood had never been better. Tianluo's sweat flowed more and more. He didn't know why, but he felt as if his master had changed into a different person. If he hadn't followed his master all the time, he would definitely have suspected that he had been replaced by someone else. Mississippi Qingyan cautiously pulled Yun Luofeng back. She looked at Ji Zhoutian vigilantly and said, "We have just met this man. If we follow him, won't it be too unsafe?" Yun Luofeng faintly smiled. "Trust me, nothing will happen." It was indeed her first day meeting Ji Zhoutian, but she had a very familiar feeling. Even she did not know where this feeling came from. However, she knew that Ji Zhoutian would not hurt her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have made friends with someone she had just met. Qingyan did not continue to speak, but little Mo's voice came from her soul. "Master, don't be bewitched by his beauty. This man looks like a coquettish slut. One look and you can tell that he's not from a decent family. How can he compare to Yun Xiao? Pure men like Yun Xiao have long gone extinct. You mustn't throw away the watermelon to pick up the sesame seed." 3 black lines appeared on Yun Luofeng's forehead. Did she look like the kind of person who would abandon someone after using them? Moreover, his heart had already been occupied by Yun Xiao. No one else could squeeze in. Little Mo seemed to have heard Yun Luofeng's voice and continued to speak. "You and Yun Xiao have known each other for 5 or 6 years, but you still haven't given him a status. Even your first time was because you were trying to save Yun Xiao. So I can't help but worry." Chapter 1141. Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin. Did she really look like someone who would abandon someone after using them? It looked like she really should get married to Yun Xiao first. But what made her feel helpless was that she still didn't know where Yun Xiao was. "Master, you've already eaten Yun Xiao clean. Don't be the kind of beast that old master described you to be, who pulls up his pants and ignores people." If Yun Luofeng had met another man, he wouldn't have been so nervous. But the man in front of him was too strong. He was so strong that he couldn't see through his strength. How could he not be worried for Yun Xiao? What if this man took advantage of Yun Xiao's absence to steal from Master? As Yun Xiao's loyal protector, he had to remind Master at all times not to be bewitched by this flirtatious slut. After all, a good man like Yun Xiao was really extinct. Yun Luofeng didn't pay attention to Xiao Mo. Instead, he was thinking that the next time he met Yun Xiao, he must get married first. Otherwise, everyone would think that she was the kind of beast that would pull up her pants and ignore people. Thinking about Yun Zhao's cold and perfect face, Yun Luofeng's lips couldn't help but curve slightly. After not seeing him for a few months, she really missed him. I wonder how Yun Zhao is doing recently. On another mainland, in a valley somewhere, a man seemed to feel the longing from afar. He raised his head and gazed at the azure sky. His cold face gradually melted and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. It's been almost a month. Based on Qin Yuan's speed, he should be reaching the continent of no return soon. In a luxurious mansion, a group of lavishly dressed maids rushed out when they saw Ji Jiutian return. In an instant, they served tea and massaged his shoulders and back in one go. The division of labor was clear. Ji Jiutian took the tea from the maid and took a small sip. He frowned and smashed the teacup in his hand on the ground. He spat out the tea in his mouth. Who brewed the tea today? There were too few tea leaves, it wasn't bitter enough. There was one less step in the brewing process, it wasn't fragrant enough. Also, who allowed you to boil the tea leaves from yesterday? I only drink fresh tea leaves. The maidservants were so frightened that they all knelt on the ground, trembling. Reporting to Master, the master in charge of brewing tea has temporarily returned to his hometown. This one has just been hired, so she has made a mistake. Please forgive her, Master. Forget it. I have a good temperament today, so I'll let him go. Ji Jiutian relaxed his brows. Steward, send someone to tidy up the wing next to my room and arrange for Miss Yun to move in. Hearing this, the servant girls wiped the cold sweat from their foreheads. The master loved to drink tea. Every day, the first thing he did when he returned to the residence was to taste tea. However, the master was exceptionally picky. If he was dissatisfied with something, it wouldn't be as simple as a punishment. But why did Master let go of that tea maker so easily today? Was it because of the young lady that his master had brought back? The maidservants glanced at Yun Luofeng out of the corner of their eyes, and their eyes were filled with amazement. They had never seen such a beautiful woman before. Standing together with their master, they could truly be described as a perfect match, peerless in this world. Yun Luofeng smiled evilly. Ji Jiutian, do you like to drink tea? Tea and wine I can't do without either. Ji Jiutian said arrogantly. Yun Luofeng smiled and didn't say anything else. He followed the steward. Qing Yan and the others also hurriedly followed beside Yun Luofeng, walking quickly towards the residence. Chapter 1142. It was night. The night was dark like water. Yun Luofeng had just pushed the door open when she saw Ji Jiutian sitting in her room. He was holding a small wine glass in his hand and gently swirling it. Don't you know that there is a difference between men and women? What are you doing in my room in the middle of the night? She leaned against the door frame and looked at the man sitting in the room with a faint smile on her face. The man's clothes were half open, revealing his snow-white and attractive skin. Under the moonlight, his skin emitted a seductive light. It had to be said that this man really had the capital to charm people. Every frown and smile revealed his seductive nature. Is there a problem with your hand? Ji Jiutian glanced at Yun Luofeng's right hand and raised his eyebrows. Yun Luofeng was stunned and subconsciously touched her palm. The smile on her face did not diminish. That day, because I forcefully increased my strength, it caused my right hand to be crippled. If her right hand had only been seriously injured and crippled, with her medical skills, she would have been able to cure it 100%. However, this was the result of forcefully increasing her strength. Even little Mo might not have a way to cure it. I know something that can cure your arm. Ji Jiutian glanced at Yun Luofeng. The sacred water of the sacred maiden clan can reconstruct your tibia. Your arm can also be healed without treatment. Sacred water? Yun Luofeng was stunned. Hearing these two words, she suddenly remembered the sacred water that she had obtained from Lin Ruobai's father. They were both sacred water. But she knew clearly that the sacred water in her hands did not have the ability to reconstruct tibia. Where is the sacred maiden clan? Yun Luofeng asked with a frown. Aren't there people from the sacred maiden clan by your side? Ji Jiutian slowly stood up and smiled evilly. That's all I have to say. If you want to cure your arm, you can only rely on your own efforts. I won't help you. He would only provide her with clues, but he would not help her. Yun Luofeng was just about to ask when Ji Jiutian's figure disappeared into thin air. In the quiet room, only the sound of the night breeze could be heard. As for the seductive man who had just been sitting in the room, it was as if he had never appeared. Little Mo, what is the origin of this sacred maiden clan? Yun Luofeng gently stroked her chin and pondered for a while before asking. After a long time, Little Mo's voice came from his soul. I've heard of the Holy Maiden tribe before. It's a very mysterious tribe. Anyone who was selected to enter the Sacred Maiden tribe was not allowed to marry. In the past, the Sacred Maiden tribe was very powerful. I don't know what the situation of the Sacred Maiden tribe is now, but I can tell you clearly that the Sacred Maiden tribe is not in the continent of No Hui. Little Mo. He said that someone from the Sacred Maiden tribe is beside me. Do you know who he is talking about? This. Little Mo hesitated for a moment. Master, if you want to cure your arm, you don't necessarily need the holy water of the Sacred Maiden tribe. I have other ways to help you as long as you give me time. In this world, there is nothing I can't do. Little Mo's voice was full of confidence. He clearly did not want Yun Luofeng to have dealings with the Sacred Maiden tribe. Yun Luofeng naturally understood the meaning behind his words. He smiled and said, "You don't want me to go find the Holy Maiden tribe?" "Yes," Little Mo answered honestly. "Those people from the Sacred Maiden tribe are very inexplicable. If they take a fancy to you and want you to join the Sacred Maiden tribe, what will happen to Yun Xiao? Master, give me some time. I'll think of something. I will never let you deal with those people." Chapter 1143. As the doctor's meet was being held in the Chancellor's palace, the entire Chancellor's palace was bustling with noise and excitement. Yun Luofeng had just walked into the main hall of the Chancellor's palace when he saw Lin Yu, who was beaming from ear to ear. Lin Yu also saw Yun Luofeng. A vicious glint flashed across his eyes and his lips curled into a mocking smile. "Yun Luofeng, I never thought that you would dare to come here. Since you're now in my territory, you'll soon have no response from heaven or earth." He gritted his teeth in hatred. Thinking about what Yun Luofeng had done to him, he wanted to tear her to pieces. Unfortunately, Yun Luofeng was holding on to the invitation, so he could not chase this woman out. Yun Luofeng. Just then, a cold voice rang out from beside Yun Luofeng. As he turned his head, he saw a woman dressed in green walking towards him. This woman couldn't be considered a devastatingly beautiful woman, but she gave off an exceptionally comfortable feeling. Her beauty was a little special, and her fine black hair cascaded down her shoulders like a waterfall. She had a friendly and polite smile on her face, and her eyes were bright and full of expression. Qingmu glanced at the woman walking towards Yun Luofeng and said in a low voice, "She's Princess Qing Shuang from the Flowing Moon Empire. Who would have thought that she would also participate in this doctor's conference?" Princess Qing Shuang? Yun Luofeng was stunned for a moment before he remembered who this Princess Qing Shuang was. She had sent someone to congratulate him on his second uncle's wedding. That was how Yun Luofeng had found out about the legendary Princess Qing Shuang. Princess Qing Shuang smiled. "That day I wanted to see you personally, but something came up and I could only send someone. I hope you don't mind." She paused for a moment before continuing. "This time, I knew that you would definitely come to participate in the doctor's conference, so I also came here to see you." "See me?" Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and his lips curled into a smile. "Why do you want to see me?" Princess Qing Shuang smiled. "I just want to know what kind of person the woman who was in the limelight at the international competition is. Now that I've met her, she's exactly what I imagined." Just as the two of them were talking, a laugh came from the side. "Princess Frost, I didn't expect you to see Miss Yun first. I'm still one step behind you." As soon as he finished speaking, the man walked out from behind the crowd. He was dressed in a brocade robe, looking handsome and confident. His eyes were full of smiles. "Your Majesty Enlon." Greenwood nodded towards Enlon. Enlon nodded and turned his gaze to Yun Luofeng. "Miss Yun, long time no see." He had a smile on his face as his gaze fell on Yun Luofeng. This man was the prince of the Peerless Empire, Enlon, whom he had met in the International League tournament. At the same time, he was also the one who helped Qingmu and the others escape from the Tianhui Empire. To be honest, Yun Luofeng did not have much feelings for Enlon. In comparison, Princess Frost made her feel more comfortable. "Everyone, Welcome to the medical conference organized by my family. Lin Yu coughed dryly and cleared his throat before saying, I'll be holding the medical conference for everyone and I'll be distributing the fruit of the soul to everyone at the end. In other words, he was the one who could make the decision for this medical conference. Yun Luofeng and Ji Zhouqian had offended him, so they would never be able to get the fruit of the soul in this lifetime. Chapter 1144. The funny thing was he still didn't know the reason. The reason why he could host this medical conference was because of Ji Zhouqian's secret. It was precisely because he knew nothing. That was why he made an irreparable mistake in the end. Our Ji clan's clan leader respects doctors the most. That's why he held this medical conference this time around. His goal is to unearth peerless geniuses from doctors. However, if he doesn't care about the matters of the outside world, as long as you are a doctor, you will receive an invitation from him. As a result, some people will be able to sneak through and participate in the medical conference with that kind of virtue. As Lin Yu spoke, his eyes kept drifting towards Yun Luofeng. Clearly, the person he was talking about was Yun Luofeng. Everyone's eyes turned towards Lin Yu in unison when they recalled his fight with Yun Luofeng on the street. Their eyes were filled with sympathy and pity. Offending Lin Yu is equivalent to offending the Ji family. This young girl's days from now on will not be easy. What? Did you offend someone from the Ji family? Anlan raised his eyebrows and looked at Yun Luofeng with a faint smile. It seems that you really get into trouble easily. First you offended the Tianhui Empire in the tournament, and now you offended the Ji family here. It seems that no matter where you go, you will make a group of enemies. Yun Luofeng shrugged his shoulders, his face filled with helplessness. I don't want to be enemies with anyone. But this group of people just likes to find me. Her voice was neither soft nor soft, and it fell right into everyone's ears. Lin Yu grew increasingly furious as he glared daggers at Yun Luofeng. In the eyes of those who did not know the truth, they would think that Yun Luofeng had an irreconcilable blood feud with him. At this moment the entire hall fell silent. Everyone's gaze turned towards the door, towards the man with peerless elegance. This man was so beautiful that it made people's hearts beat faster. There was a cinnabar dot between his eyebrows, and he was extremely enchanting. His clothes were half open, and his snow-white skin was like white jade that emitted a pure white light. It was extremely dazzling. In the hall, the eyes of the unmarried women were filled with amazement. They stared at the peerless man like hungry wolves. If it weren't for the fact that they wanted to maintain their composure, they might have already pounced on him. The man ignored everyone's gaze and walked to Yun Luofeng's side. Why didn't you wait for me? His long and narrow eyes stared unblinkingly at Yun Luofeng as he asked. Yun Luofeng smiled. Why should I wait for you? Ji Zhouqian's voice suddenly disappeared. Helplessness could be seen on his beautiful face. He did take her in, but she came to participate in the doctor's conference without saying a word, completely abandoning him. All the women glared angrily at Yun Luofeng when they saw the interaction between the two. Their eyes were filled with jealousy and hatred. His expression was like he wished he could stare 2 holes into Yun Luofeng's face. Let's see how she can seduce men in the future. Lin Yu's expression is very ugly. She glared coldly at Yun Luofeng and Gu Ruoyun before turning away. The corners of her lips curled into a mocking angle as she said, Today, the Ji family has invited all of you to participate in the medical conference. I hope that unrelated people can leave as soon as possible. He didn't say this to Yun Luofeng. Instead, he looked at the gorgeous Ji Zhouqian. Yun Luofeng had the invitation in his hand, and he was helpless. Could it be that he couldn't chase this man away? No matter how strong he was, he didn't have the guts to go against the Ji family in public. Chapter 1145. Ji Zhouqian raised his lips into a smile. He flicked his sleeves and sat down in front of everyone. His enchanting red robe fluttered in the breeze. He supported half of his face with his fist, and there was an indescribable charm between his slightly raised eyebrows. Today I will stay here. I want to see who dares to leave with me. The man's voice was wild and domineering. His sharp gaze slowly swept across the crowd before finally landing on Lin Yu. He raised his brow and said, You're just a little ant, yet you have the audacity to act so insolently in front of me. I am from Ji clan. Lin Yu straightened his neck and said unyieldingly, If you attack me, you'll be making an enemy out of the Ji family. Are you really not afraid of death? Ji family. Ji Jiutian smiled. If not for the fact that he wanted to leave this old man for Yun Luofeng, perhaps he would have already made him bleed on the spot. You can scare me just by moving out of Ji family? The man slightly raised his slender hand. At that moment, Lin Yu felt his breathing stagnate. It was as if the man could strangle him to death with just a raise of his hand. Get lost and host the meeting. The man's red lips parted and his voice was incomparably domineering. In fact, it was clear that he did not place the Ji family in his eyes at all. Everyone was shocked. They were all trying to guess what kind of identity this man had to be able to make him say such arrogant words. Lin Yu glared at Ji Jiutian resentfully and walked to his seat. But before he could sit down, he was interrupted by the man's cold and arrogant voice. Get lost. Lin Yu paused in his steps and turned to glare at the man angrily. What else do you want? That's my position. You don't have the right to do it. The corners of Ji Jiutian's lips curled up into a bloodthirsty smile. A streak of blood-red light flashed across his black eyes for a moment before disappearing. Don't go overboard. Lin Yu was so angry that her entire body was trembling. This is the Ji family's territory. The Chancellor's residence in the Spirit City had already been bought by the Ji family for the sake of today's medical event. Hence, in Lin Yu's mind, the highest seat in the hall should naturally belong to him. You're not worthy. Those three arrogant words caused Lin Yu's face to turn deathly pale. He had only been humiliated twice in his life. The first time was in the medical tower. He had been chased out of the medical tower by Yun Luofeng in front of everyone. The second time was now. Without waiting for Lin Yu to recover from his rage, the man flicked his sleeves and rose to his feet. His figure was like a ray of red light as he instantly appeared on the high seat. Her red robe was extremely enchanting and stunning. His hand was still supporting his head. His long and narrow eyes flashed with a blood-red light as he slowly opened his mouth under everyone's gaze. I'm just here to join in the fun. You guys continue. I'll just watch and won't say anything. The pressure that this man gave off was too strong. Under this kind of pressure, they couldn't help but sweat profusely. No one actually dared to open their mouths. The entire hall was so quiet that only the sound of his breathing could be heard. Lin Yu clenched his fists tightly as he sat down on the lower seat unwillingly. A vicious glint flashed across his cold eyes. After the meeting ended, the patriarch would appear. And as long as the patriarch appeared, it would be the time of this man's death. It was better to let him have his way for now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the medical event organized by the Ji family. Lin Yu smiled insincerely as he said, the Ji family has set up countless questions for the sake of this meeting. Those questions have been pasted on the wall and you can answer them later on. The more questions you answer, the more likely you are to become the cream of the crop. Chapter 1146. He paused before he continued. Of course, to prevent anyone from answering the questions incorrectly, the Ji family will be testing the questions at the end. If you answer more than 2 questions incorrectly, it will be judged as a failure. I hope that everyone can answer the questions accordingly. As he spoke, a smile appeared on Lin Yu's face. These questions were extremely difficult and not many people could answer them. Hence, they could not answer the questions incorrectly. If they answered more than 2 questions incorrectly, it would be judged as a failure. So what if Yun Luofeng's medical skills were superb? As long as he judged her as a failure, she would not be able to obtain the fruit of the soul. Ha ha ha. Lin Yu laughed maniacally in his heart at the thought of this, and the vicious light in his eyes deepened. Yun Luofeng, this is the price you have to pay for chasing me out of the medical tower. If you had knelt down and apologized yesterday, perhaps I would have forgiven you. Yet you insist on being so arrogant. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being rude. Once Lin Yu had spoken, the doctors rushed towards the white wall in a race against time. At that moment, the walls were plastered with questions. When they saw the questions, the crowd fell silent and frowned in deep thought. Miss Yun. Qing Shuang glanced at Yun Luofeng with a deep smile on her willowy brows. I look forward to your performance. If it had not been for the sake of meeting Yun Luofeng, he would not have rushed over from the Flowing Moon Empire. At the same time, he believed that Yun Luofeng would not disappoint him. When she saw that everyone had walked towards the wall, Yun Luofeng followed suit. She picked up a pen and wrote down the answers to the questions on a piece of paper. She answered the question swiftly and smoothly. Very soon, she had already answered one question and moved on to the next one. The quiet hall grew even quieter. Those who were deep in thought turned to look at Yun Luofeng with astonishment in their eyes. Where did this young lady come from? Why can she answer the questions without even thinking? I think I've heard of her. She seems to be the pagoda master of the medical tower. Legend has it that there are many books in the medical tower that have never existed on this mainland. Hence, it's not surprising that she could answer these questions. The crowd whispered to each other and discussed animatedly. A moment later, someone returned to his senses and hurriedly said, "Hurry up, there's not much time left. If we try our luck, we might be able to answer one or two questions." If it was delayed until the afternoon, Yun Luofeng would have answered all the questions. According to the rules of the conference, no matter whether the answer was right or wrong, as long as she wrote it down, no one else could continue to answer. Thus, after this person's topic ended, everyone began to race against time. Picking up their pens and writing on the paper, time ticked by. Dusk fell. The sunset glow filled the sky. After an unknown period of time, all the questions were finally answered. Lin Yu gently stroked his chin as he casually scanned through the answers. The more he looked, the uglier his expression became. The questions that Yun Luofeng answered were written in a fair and detailed manner. There were no problems at all. There wasn't even a single typo, however. These questions had all been discussed by countless elders of the Ji family. Yun Luofeng's brain didn't even move, and he wrote it down smoothly. How much knowledge did she have in her brain to be able to do this? No. He absolutely could not let Yun Luofeng win. Chapter 1147. It was a good thing that the Ji family had only sent him to host the competition this time, and there were no other elders present. As long as he determined that Yun Luofeng's answer was wrong, who would dare to say otherwise? Cough, cough. Lin Yu coughed dryly and cleared his throat. He then said with a gloomy look on his face, "It's almost time. Everyone put down your pens. I'll check your answers now." He placed his hands behind his back and pretended to walk forward. His eyes scanned the questions on the paper one by one. "Princess Frost, you've answered a total of 5 questions. The accuracy rate is 100%. Your Highness and Lan, you've answered a total of 5 questions but you've written one wrong. The accuracy rate is 80%. Lin Qi, you've answered a total of 3 questions." Lin Yu glanced at the questions that the crowd had answered and came up with the answers one after another. In the end, he had reported the names of all the people who had answered the questions except for Yun Luofeng. He had not heard her name from his lips. Yun Luofeng was not anxious. Her beautiful face was calm and a demonic light flashed in her smiling black eyes. She leaned lazily against a pillar as she stared at Lin Yu's sinister expression with a forced smile. Lin Yu sensed her gaze and instinctively glanced at her. He then smiled icily and said, "Yun Luofeng, you've answered 20 questions." 20 questions had surpassed the total answers of the rest. In an instant, everyone raised their heads and looked at Yun Luofeng. Compared to the outcome of the competition, they were more interested in knowing how accurate Yun Luofeng's answers were. As the crowd waited anxiously, Lin Yu continued to speak and slowly said, "The accuracy rate is 90%. Boom! The crowd was in an uproar. In an instant, the crowd's eyes changed from curiosity to shock as if they could not believe Lin Yu's words. The accuracy rate is 90%? Is this the accuracy rate and not the accuracy rate? Does this mean that out of the 20 questions, she has answered 18 of them incorrectly? I've long known that this woman is just an embroidered pillow. She's completely useless." A woman scoffed and glanced at Yun Luofeng disdainfully. What's the point of her answering so many questions? Aren't they all wrong? The woman's voice was filled with jealousy. She was clearly enraged because of Ji Jiutian and Yun Luofeng's previous relationship. Therefore, her words were equally blunt. "Yun Luofeng, I never thought that your medical skills would be this trashy." Lin Yu raised his head and spoke disdainfully. "You clearly don't know anything yet you pretend to be knowledgeable. You didn't even think before writing down so many answers. If you're not trying to fool me, then what are you? I advise you to go back to your mother's womb and start anew so that you don't embarrass yourself outside." At a time like this, no one doubted Lin Yu's words. After all, in their hearts, Lin Yu does not have the guts to put on a show in front of everyone. What's more, they had all seen Yun Luofeng's speed as he wrote the answers. If she didn't write nonsense, how could she have such speed? Ji Zhoutian narrowed his long and narrow eyes as he looked at the girl in white with a smile on his lips. He did not think of helping Yun Luofeng out of this predicament. Instead, he wanted to know how she would prove herself. The corners of Yun Luofeng's lips curled up as he looked at Lin Yu with a half-smile. Are you sure that I've answered 18 questions incorrectly? That's right. Lin Yu raised his head and puffed out his chest. I have a set of correct answers in my hands. I compared them and came to this conclusion. Chapter 1148. Yun Luofeng extended his hand towards Lin Yu. What do you want? Lin Yu glared at Yun Luofeng coldly as he asked impatiently. Answer. Yun Luofeng said with a smile. Lin Yu's expression changed and he pointed at his head. My answer is already in my head. Since that's the case, what evidence do you have to prove that my answer is wrong? Yun Luofeng's smile was lazy and evil. Who can prove that you're not abusing your position to avenge a personal grudge? Ha ha. Lin Yu laughed maniacally. Avenge a personal grudge? If I, Lin Yu, wanted to deal with you, I don't need to do it on such an occasion. What ability do you think you have to compete with the Ji family? As long as I give the order, you will die here. However, I, Lin Yu, have always repaid evil with good. No matter how cruel you are to do to me, I would never stoop to fighting a girl like you. His words were filled with righteousness, and when they fell into the ears of others, Yun Luofeng impressively became a narrow-minded person. On the other hand, even if he was humiliated by Yun Luofeng in front of everyone, he was not willing to argue with a woman. I will only ask you one thing. If I can prove that I did not answer these 18 questions incorrectly, then what are you willing to pay? Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes. A dangerous light flashed across his black pupils. She lifted her chin slightly, revealing her arrogant nature. That's impossible. My judgment can't be wrong. If you can really prove that there's no problem with your answer, in that case I'll kneel and kowtow to you a few times, said Lin Yu as he shook his head. Proof? How could she prove it? In this medical conference he was the only one who could make decisions. Why would he be afraid of a little girl? Actually, if you want to prove it, it's very simple. Yun Luofeng raised the corner of his mouth, his smile sinister. Before Lin Yu could react, the young girl suddenly raised her leg and sent him flying with a kick. You! Lin Yu raised his head in anger but saw that the young girl was already in front of him. She stepped on his chest with one foot and took off the space ring on his finger from above. Her demonic gaze was filled with coldness, making him shudder. Remove the restriction on the spatial ring. Lin Yu's face turned pale in an instant and panic appeared in his eyes. What are you trying to do? This spatial ring contains my many years of treasures. I definitely can't give it to you. Men quickly seized this woman for this old man. Lin Yu never imagined that Yun Luofeng would have the guts to attack him in public. He had underestimated her. Immediately, all the guards of the Ji clan pulled out their weapons and were about to rush towards Yun Luofeng. Miss Yun, don't worry and deal with him. Leave the rest of the Ji family to my Flowing Moon Empire. At this time, Princess Qingxuang stood on Yun Luofeng's side without hesitation, blocking all the people from the Ji family. And Lan smiled. Princess Frost has already made a move, how can I turn a blind eye to it? Others may be afraid of the Ji family, but our peerless empire has never been afraid. He slowly walked towards Princess Qingxuang with a smile on his handsome face. If you want to get close to Miss Yun, you must first defeat the experts of the peerless empire. In an instant, a few figures flew over from afar and stood behind Lan. Those people stared coldly at the people of Ji family. Lin Yu's face was ashen as he asked, Yun Luofeng, are you really not afraid of the Ji family? I've heard. Yun Luofeng smiled and did not answer his question. When a spatial ring changes owners, either the original owner must remove the restriction, or the original owner must die. Once you die, I will be able to retrieve the items in the spatial ring. Chapter 1149. Murderous intent surged from the young girl's body as she spoke and surrounded Lin Yu. Lin Yu could clearly sense that Yun Luofeng's murderous intent had been triggered. This woman has no regard for the Ji family at all. Furthermore, in her eyes, His own life was nothing more than a trifling matter. Lin Yu had no choice but to remove the restriction on the space ring as he glared hatefully at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng raised her hand and a scroll appeared in her palm. She handed the scroll to Qing Shuang and raised her brow. Please help me check my answers. Qing Shuang saw that Yun Luofeng had taken the scroll out of Lin Yu's ring, and was shocked when she heard her words. A sense of understanding flashed across her eyes and she quickly walked towards the wall. She opened the scroll and looked at the answers Yun Luofeng had written. The more she looked at it, the more shocked she became and the uglier her delicate face became. 20 answers. All correct. She was 100% correct. It was no wonder that Qing Shuang's expression was so ugly. Lin Yu had cheated too much. Yun Luofeng had clearly answered all the questions correctly, and were even more detailed than the answers on the scroll. However, he had judged her to be 90% wrong. How could Qing Shuang, who had always abhorred evil, tolerate this? Following the initial shock, the crowd was once again greatly shocked. All 20 answers are correct? Why would Lin Yu judge her to have 18 errors? He's clearly abusing his position to avenge a personal grudge. How could the Ji family's general meeting be so lax? At that moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Lin Yu's face. No one had expected Lin Yu to have the audacity to cheat under these circumstances. Lin Yu laughed icily and slowly rose to his feet. He flicked the dust off his robes as a disdainful light flashed in his eyes. Yun Luofeng, so what if you've answered the questions correctly? I have the final say on the fruit of the soul. If I don't give it to you, you'll never get it. He has no regard for Yun Luofeng at all. With the Ji family's protection, why would he need to fear a tiny tower of medicine? Thump! Yun Luofeng raised his leg once again and kicked Lin Yu in the chest. She had used an extremely great amount of strength in that kick. The crowd could only hear the sound of bones breaking. Soon after, the elderly figure was sent flying and landed miserably on the ground. He spat out mouthfuls of blood and stared at Yun Luofeng with bloodshot eyes. Silence. The entire hall was silent, not a sound could be heard. Everyone stared at Yun Luofeng, their eyes filled with astonishment. Although Lin Yu had cheated, he was still a member of the Ji family. Yun Luofeng actually dared to directly attack him? And Lan shook his head and smiled helplessly. It was the same back in the International League tournament. She never let herself suffer any losses. Whoever makes her suffer, she'll get it back 1,000 times over. Qing Shuang didn't speak and just stared at Yun Luofeng quietly. Her eyes flickered with a faint light, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. Perhaps he had not misjudged him. This girl was very special. Yun Luofeng, you'll die a horrible death. Lin Yu gritted his teeth and spat hatefully. You won't have a good ending in the future. I'm afraid you won't know whether I'll have a good ending or not. Yun Luofeng's foot was on Lin Yu's chest as she lowered her eyes to look at him. She then said with a forced smile, Lin Yu, I've given you a chance but you insist on making me your enemy. I, Yun Luofeng, have to suffer anything in this lifetime but I will never suffer losses. Chapter 1150. Her slightly raised brows were arrogant and confident as she proclaimed in a domineering manner. In this lifetime she would suffer from anything but losses. Ji Zhoutian leaned his head as his narrow, almond-shaped eyes sparkled. A seductive smile hung on his coquettish face. He lifted his snow-white chin in a domineering and wild manner. The women around them glanced lustfully at his peerless face from time to time. Ji Zhoutian did not seem to notice anything as his almond-shaped eyes continued to stare at Yun Luofeng. The interest in his eyes grew stronger and the smile on his lips grew wider. Yun Luofeng, I'm from the Ji family. Lin Yu mentioned the Ji family in an attempt to remind Yun Luofeng that if he were to die in her hands, the Ji family would not let her off so easily. However, Yun Luofeng continued to slowly approach Lin Yu. Her deep dark eyes were calm as a cold and evil smile hung on her peerlessly beautiful face. At this moment, Lin Yu felt that Yun Luofeng was like the Grim Reaper who had crawled out of hell and could reap his life at any time. Do you still remember what you've said? If you prove that my answer is correct, kowtow and admit your mistake. Lin Yu gritted his teeth. Dream on. Thump. He had just climbed to his feet when Yun Luofeng's leg turned and kicked the back of Lin Yu's leg. Lin Yu was caught off guard and knelt in front of Yun Luofeng with a thud. The pain caused him to break out in a cold sweat. Seeing that you've knelt down, I can spare your life. Yun Luofeng raised his chin and said condescendingly. However, in order to prevent you from finding trouble with me in the future, I will cripple your strength. Lin Yu raised his head in shock and looked at the smiling young girl. A chill crept into his heart. No. He screamed in his heart and hurriedly turned around and ran out of the hall. Now his heart was filled with regret. Why had he not brought some powerful cultivators with him? Otherwise, he would not have fallen into Yun Luofeng's hands. Perhaps Lin Yu would never have imagined that Ji Zhouqian had purposely sent him a group of weak guards for the sake of putting on a show. The master of the Ji family has arrived. Suddenly, a high-pitched voice chimed in from outside the governor's mansion. Upon hearing this voice, Lin Yu's expression changed from his initial panic to pleasant surprise. He stopped in his tracks and laughed maniacally. The patriarch is here. Yun Luofeng, you're dead for sure this time. Ji Zhouqian frowned and stared coldly at the man who walked into the city governor's mansion. His long and narrow eyes were filled with anger. Tian Luo, who was hiding in the dark, could not help but break out in cold sweat. Why is the patriarch here? It's over. The family head must have angered the master this time. If the master gets angry, the master might even cripple the family head in a fit of anger. At this moment, a man in a green robe slowly walked in from outside the courtyard that was enveloped by the sunset glow. The man was tall and had a feminine appearance. His skin was as beautiful as jade, and his lips were as red as blood. If it wasn't for his slightly protruding Adam's apple, no one would have thought that he was a man. Compared to Ji Zhouqian's bewitching beauty, this man gave off a gentle and beautiful feeling. He led a group of people behind him and walked into the hall in a mighty manner. Of course, the master of the Ji family was named Ji Lan. She was intelligent and had the spirit of a woman. The master of the Ji family? Heavens, he's the master of the Ji family? He's indeed very beautiful, but I like this bewitching man more than anyone else. If this man is known as the most beautiful man in the world, then the master of the Ji family must be ranked second. Chapter 1151. The woman who spoke could not help but glance at Ji Zhouqian with a shy look on her face. Without Ji Zhouqian, Ji Lan's beauty would definitely shock the world. It was because of Ji Zhouqian's existence that he was outshone. It was like an orchid blooming next to a beautiful rose. The orchid was destined to be overshadowed. Master, you have to uphold justice for me. As soon as Lin Yu saw Ji Lan, he sprinted towards her and wept bitterly. This time I was ordered by my master to organize this medical conference, but I never thought that Yun Luofeng would steal my answers and answer 20 questions in less than the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn. I know I made a mistake and wanted to disqualify Yun Luofeng from participating, but I never thought that he would force me to hand over the fruit of the soul. He sounded aggrieved, as if he had been bullied. I disobeyed and he beat me until I was severely injured. Master? In the Ji family, the master did not have the highest authority. There was only one person who could be called master, however. That person was even more mysterious than Ji Lan. Very few people had seen him. Unfortunately, this mysterious person was the most powerful person in the Ji family. I wonder if the Ji family is ashamed of you for distorting the truth? Princess Qing Shuang glanced at Lin Yu and said coldly. The Ji family was the most mysterious family in the Wuhui continent. Even the three great empires had to respect the master of the Ji family. However, for the sake of Yun Luofeng, Princess Qing Shuang stood on his side without any hesitation, even going against the Ji family. Humph! Lin Yu snorted and glared at Princess Qing Shuang. You and Yun Luofeng are on the same side, so of course you will speak up for him. If she did not steal the answers, how could she have answered so many questions in such a short time? Princess Qing Shuang smiled coldly. That proves that she is very powerful. I was not wrong about her. Among all the doctors present, only Princess Qing Shuang stood up for Yun Luofeng. The others looked at each other, afraid that they would offend the Ji family if they said another word. Anyway, the Ji family would not blame Lin Yu for an outsider like Yun Luofeng. Why should they provoke him? Master! Lin Yu turned towards Ji Lan and cried out, Master, you must uphold justice for me. Yun Luofeng is bullying people too far. Ji Lan frowned. If this kind of cheating happened in the G family's territory, what would happen to the G family's face if it was spread out? However, he could not believe Lin Yu's one-sided story either. Therefore, he turned his gaze towards Yun Luofeng and asked, "Is this true?" Yun Luofeng curled his lips into a smile, his deep black eyes gazing at Ji-lan. "What do you think?" Ji-lan furrowed his brows. Just as he was about to continue speaking, a seductive voice drifted over, shaking his soul. "This time I've watched a good show. And I've learned what it means to make a false accusation." The man smiled charmingly and leaned lazily against the back of the chair. The night breeze blew through the hall, causing his clothes to flutter, revealing his fair and seductive skin. His voice was neither soft nor soft, but it successfully attracted everyone's attention. Ji-lan was taken aback. He gazed at Ji Jotian, who appeared behind the crowd. Cold sweat trickled down his forehead uncontrollably. "You damned brat, try saying that one more time." Lin Yu was enraged. He glared fiercely at Ji Jotian before turning his gaze towards Ji-lan. "Master, this brat's relationship with Yun Luofeng is unclear. You can't believe what he says. Besides, he had just insulted our Ji family and threatened to destroy our Ji family. Most importantly, he said that everyone in our Ji family is not a good person, including Master." Chapter 1152. In the Ji family, the Master's position is the most important. The Master's protection of the Master is no less than anyone else's. If he hears anyone insulting the Master of the Ji family in this manner, he would certainly fly into a rage. Lin Yu curled his lips complacently at the thought of this. His gloomy gaze swept towards Ji Jotian behind him. At this moment, he did not notice that Ji-lan's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. His clothes were drenched in sweat. Ji-lan instinctively raised his hand to wipe the sweat from his forehead and hurriedly walked towards Ji Jotian. "Damned brat, this is what you get for humiliating the Ji family. This time you're dead meat." When Lin Yu saw Ji-lan walking towards him, he thought that his master was about to attack Ji Jotian, and the complacency on his face deepened. However, Ji-lan's next words caused Lin Yu to be dumbfounded on the spot. "Ancestor, what are you doing here?" "Ancestor?" In the Ji family, there was only one person whom the master would address as Ancestor Whoosh. Lin Yu's face suddenly turned pale. He stumbled a few steps back and his body swayed. Impossible! How could this man be the master? The most mysterious person in the Ji family? This doctor's conference has certainly put on a good show for me. Ji Jotian smiled seductively. His smile was cold and sinister as his voice rang out icily. Some people had used their status as the organizer to judge the doctor who had answered the wrong question as a failure. In the end, they had framed the doctor. I reckon that even a big drama wouldn't be as interesting as today's show. Ancestor, please forgive me. I'll take care of this. Ji-lan wiped the cold sweat from his forehead once again. He never thought that his ancestor would appear here. There's no need. Ji Jotian glanced at him icily. I had asked Lin Yu to organize this doctor's conference so that I could send him to Yun Luofeng and let him do whatever he wants with him. Yet you had to come and cause trouble. Ji-lan's sweat began to flow again. He could tell that his ancestor was enraged this time. Ancestor, please hand Lin Yu over to me. I won't disappoint the master. At a time like this, he could only atone for his sins by doing something that would satisfy his ancestor. I'll believe you for the time being. Ji Jotian narrowed his eyes and a dangerous arc flashed across his long and narrow eyes. If you displease me even a little bit, then it's time for the Ji family's head to change. Yes, master. Ji-lan's face turned pale. She turned to Lin Yu and her eyes were filled with rage. Lin Yu, you've done something wrong yet you dare to frame others. According to the Ji family's rules, you won't be able to atone for your crimes even if you die 10,000 times. Thump! Lin Yu suddenly knelt on the ground and kowtowed in fear. Family head, please spare my life. I know I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Ji-lan waved her hand and said in a cold voice, Men, take him down for this patriarch and bring him back to be punished according to the patriarch's rules. Yes, patriarch. Instantly, 2 cultivators stepped out from behind the scenes, grabbed Lin Yu's body and dragged him away. Lin Yu's agonized cries could be heard throughout the hall. It was only when his voice faded away that everything returned to normal. The crowd was so frightened that they did not dare to say a word. Their stunned gazes landed on Ji Jiutian. The unmarried women, in particular, wished that they could pounce on Ji Jiutian like hungry wolves and devour him dry. Not only was this man devastatingly beautiful, his status was also so noble. If they could become his concubine, they would enjoy endless glory and wealth in this lifetime. Chapter 1153. Ji Jiutian's eyes were fixed on Yun Luofeng. His smile was like a beautiful painting. Yun Luofeng, you have won the competition. The fruit of soul belongs to you. Yun Luofeng looked at Ji Jiutian silently. After a long time she asked, "Are you the ancestor of the Ji family? Also, did you specially set up this competition?" "That's right." Ji Jiutian did not deny Yun Luofeng's words. "I just wanted to attract you here and see what kind of person you are. Fortunately, you did not disappoint me." Yun Luofeng did not say anything and quietly stared at Ji Jiutian. Ji Jiutian slowly walked in front of Yun Luofeng. His slender fingers gently pinched a black fruit. His action was very seductive and could easily provoke people's souls. The fruit of soul in Lin Yu's hand is fake. This is the real fruit of soul. Because the fruit of soul is very precious, countless strong cultivators want it. Therefore, you may encounter some trouble in the future. He laughed wildly. "I believe that you can solve these problems with your strength. Therefore, I will not help you. I, Yun Luofeng, am afraid of anything but trouble." Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and took the fruit of soul from Ji Jiutian. "Moreover, I have many troubles around me." Ji Jiutian was stunned. Indeed, the people around Yun Luofeng would have some troubles. For example, if the people of the Tianhui Empire knew about Elder Guyang and Qingmu, they would definitely come looking for Yun Luofeng. Moreover, there was an even bigger trouble around her. "Take care of yourself." Ji Jiutian laughed and gently patted Yun Luofeng's head. Then, he walked out of the hall with an insolent laugh. In the blink of an eye, the enchanting red dress disappeared into the sunset. Ji Lan wiped her cold sweat and nodded to Yun Luofeng. Then, she quickly left with a group of people from the Ji family. Yun Luofeng withdrew her gaze and put away the fruit of soul. Her dark eyes turned to Princess Qing Shuang and said, "Thank you." Although Princess Qing Shuang was not threatening, she was the only one who had stood up for her. Lan looked a little embarrassed. He had hesitated before, so he did not stand up in time like Princess Qing Shuang. He had also missed the only opportunity to establish a friendly relationship with Yun Luofeng. "You're welcome." Princess Qing Shuang blinked as a smile appeared on her beautiful face. "Moreover, I'm helping you for my own good. I believe that with your strength, you will definitely stand at the top of the continent. When that time comes, I will be able to borrow your light. Perhaps I will even need your help in the future." Princess Qing Shuang was very honest. She did not say some high-sounding words like ordinary people. Instead, she said what was on her mind. Yun Luofeng smiled. "In the future, if you need anything, even if I am 1,000 miles away, I will rush over to help." One sentence, a lifetime of love. The grace of a drop of water must be returned with a gushing spring. After all, the Ji family was very powerful. They were on par with the three great empires. Perhaps they were even more powerful. However, under such circumstances, Princess Frost was willing to take the risk to speak up for her. This was also the reason why she had accepted Princess Frost from the bottom of her heart. "I won't be polite." Princess Frost smiled. Her smile was very beautiful, like a flash of youth. "Qingmu, Qingyan, let's go." Chapter 1154. Yun Luofeng took one last look at Princess Qing Shuang, then turned and walked out of the hall. She did not notice that in the corner, a pair of gloomy eyes were staring at her. Qingmu, that old bastard, when he left the Tianhui Empire, he was poached by Yun Luofeng. How dare he say that he's going back to his hometown? No, I have to tell His Majesty about this. Tianhui Empire. In the luxurious palace, the emperor received a pigeon message. His face was dark and gloomy. "Qingmu, that old bastard, how dare he lie to me? What do you mean by going back to his hometown? He has clearly abandoned me and chosen another place." Although he didn't need an old fellow like Greenwood who didn't listen to orders, that didn't mean he was willing to make Greenwood serve someone else. Especially when that person was Yun Luofeng. And Guyang, he is not a good person either. He lied to me and his disciple offended the people of the peerless empire. When I went out to hide for a few days, he took everyone in the Imperial Hospital away. Whenever he thought of the day he would return and see the empty Imperial Hospital, he would feel a burning urge in his heart. He wished he could tear that group of people into pieces. Your Majesty. Imperial concubine Lu smiled as she nestled in the Emperor's arms. Just Yun Luofeng, what are you afraid of? Why don't we send troops to destroy him? My dear concubine, this Yun Luofeng has gained the favor of Princess Qing Shuang of the Liyue Empire. In addition, she has a good relationship with the ancestors of the Ji family. I'm afraid it will not be easy to deal with him. The Emperor sighed, his face full of helplessness. He also wanted to destroy Yun Luofeng, but he did not have the strength to do so. He could only watch as his enemy continued to cause trouble. Suddenly, in the Imperial study, a sinister laugh came out of nowhere and echoed in the room. The Emperor's face changed and he shouted, "Who is it? Come out now." As soon as the Emperor finished speaking, the sinister voice came out again. How dare you be an emperor with such courage? You should just change the dynasty. As soon as he finished speaking, an old man shrouded in darkness appeared in front of him. A layer of black fog floated around the old man's body, making it impossible to see his original appearance. His voice was dry and hoarse, as if a hand was grinding against a wooden board, giving off a very uncomfortable feeling. Who are you? The Emperor looked at the old man cautiously and asked. The old man's gloomy voice sounded again. Someone who came to help you. Help me. The Emperor was stunned for a moment, and a light flashed in his eyes. That's right, the old man said in a deep voice. I can help you unify the mainland, I can help you take revenge, and I can even provide more power to the cultivators of your empire. The Emperor was still very cautious. What do you get out of helping me? If there were no benefits, why would this old man help her for no reason? I want the imperial seals of your 3 empires. The old man's voice was like sand, making people feel very uncomfortable. However, hearing his words, the Emperor was stunned. What do you want the jade seal for? You don't need to know how to use it. As long as you understand it, I will be able to help you. After I help you, you can give me the jade seal. This is a fair deal. Unifying the continent was probably everyone's dream. If he really had such an opportunity, how could he give it up? Chapter 1155. Thinking of this, the Emperor gritted his teeth and said, Okay, I promise you. The premise is that you help me unify the mainland first. At that time, I will give you the Imperial Jade Seal. The old man laughed sinisterly. I won't show up when you do these things, but I can make the army of the Tianhui Empire very powerful, immortal and indestructible. Immortal and indestructible? The Emperor's eyes lit up. Deal. If there really was an immortal and indestructible army, then from now on, who in the entire mainland would dare to defy him? Ha ha ha. The more the Emperor thought about it, the more he could not help but laugh. His laughter spread out and lingered in the sky for a long time. When Imperial concubine Lu heard the conversation between the two, her beautiful eyes turned slightly, and a sinister look flashed across her eyes. She hurriedly gave a few instructions to the palace maid beside her, and could not help but raise the corner of her lips into a sinister smile. Wuhui continent. The situation was bound to be broken because of this. Tianyun Nation. In the Yi residence, Jun Fengling looked at the sky leisurely, with a touch of uneasiness in her eyes. Juner. Yi Jingchen walked to Jun Fengling's side and hugged her from behind. Are you thinking about Xiao and Fenger again? Jun Fengling shook her head. I don't know why, but I've been feeling a little uneasy recently. Seems that something big is going to happen. Juner, don't worry. I will protect your safety. As long as I'm not dead, I will stand in front of you and never let you get hurt. Yi Jingchen's voice was very firm, and he made a solemn vow. Jun Fengling lowered her eyes and smiled. She gently stroked her round belly, and the smile on her lips revealed a gentle light. Brother Yi, I feel that in these few days our child will be born. How good would it be if Xiao and Fenger were home at this time? Fenger's medical skills are excellent. If she's here, the baby and I will be safe. She sighed softly, and her words were filled with unspeakable sorrow. Yi Jingchen held her hand tightly. Jun, you still have me. Believe me, I will not let anything happen to you and your child. I hope so. June Fengling sighed again. She looked at the blue sky, and the worry in her heart grew, making her feel very uneasy. This is bad. At this time a maidservant hurriedly ran over and said, Young master, young madam, the Tianhui Empire's army is attacking. What? Yi Jingchen and June Fengling looked at each other in shock. What's going on? Wasn't there a rule among the countries that forbade the use of troops and horses? How dare the Tianhui Empire break this stalemate? Yi Jingchen frowned, his handsome face was cold. June Fengling held Yi Jingchen's hand tightly. Why now? If it had been half a month later, my child would have been born, and I would have been able to fight alongside you. Unfortunately, I can't help you now. Once the Tianhui Empire attacked, as a member of the Yi family, Yi Jingchen must lead his men to fight. However, her heart was very uneasy. He felt that if Brother Yi went there, he would never be able to return. June, go back and wait for me. Yi Jingchen comforted June Fengling and said gently. No. June Fengling held him tightly, for fear that once she let go, this man would leave forever. Yeah, I want to face this with you. They had always been fighting side by side and had never been separated. Chapter 1156. At this time, how could she leave Yi Jingchen to face the danger alone? June. Yi Jingchen lowered his head and kissed June Fengling's forehead. Protect our child and wait for me to come back. Child? June Fengling's body trembled. Her palm touched her belly, and her face was a little pale. Yes, if she and Brother Yi died together on the battlefield, she could also be a couple with him in hell. So what about their child? How could he, who hadn't even seen this world, lose his life just like that? Brother Yi, I will wait for you to come back. June Fengling's lips were pale, and her voice was trembling. You must come back. Our child can't live without a father, and I can't live without you. I promise you I will come back. Yi Jingchen looked at June Fengling and turned to walk out of the Yi family. Looking at the man's figure leaving, June Fengling finally couldn't hold back. She covered her lips tightly with her hand, and tears flowed from between her fingers. Suddenly, a throbbing pain came from her lower abdomen. She lowered her body in pain, and her beautiful face was pale and colorless. Young madam. The maidservant saw June Fengling's strange appearance and hurried forward to support her body. Quick, help me back, I think I'm going to give birth early. June Fengling clenched the corner of her clothes tightly, and cold sweat broke out on her forehead. Did God also know that Brother Yi was going to the battlefield, so he let her child be born early? What happened? The rest of the Yi family was also alarmed and hurried out. They saw June Fengling being supported by the maidservants, and their faces changed. The army of the Tianhui Empire is here. And the young master went to fight outside the city gate. Young madam was shocked, and her child is going to be born early. The maidservant hurriedly explained. What? Old Yi was furious. The people of the Tianhui Empire dare to attack our Tianyun country? Men fight with this patriarch. Old Master Yun, I'll leave my daughter-in-law to your Yun family. Before leaving, Old Yi did not forget to tell Yun Luo. Yun Luo nodded. June is my granddaughter's future mother-in-law. I will definitely take good care of her. You can rest assured. Thank you. The old man from the Yi family cupped his fists and led the Yi family's experts away. Exiner. Yun Qingyao frowned as a resolute look flashed across her cold and handsome face. I'll go help. You take care of the Yi family's young madam. Ning Exine was taken aback. Big brother Yun. I also want to help you fight. No. Yun Qingya shook her head. There's only one woman in the Yi family, Yiqi. I'm afraid she won't be able to take care of the Yi family's young madam by herself. I want you to stay and help. More importantly, he didn't want Ning Exine to face such danger. Hearing this, Ning Exine nodded lightly. Okay, big brother Yun, I'll listen to you. Go and come back quickly. I'll take good care of the young madam. Yun Qingya glanced at Ning Exine, then turned around and walked out. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared from Ning Exine's eyes. She came back to her senses and said, Young madam is due to give birth in a few days, so there are midwives in the manor. Quickly help young madam into the manor to rest. Yi Qi, accompany your adoptive mother. I'll go find the midwife. Yi Qi hurriedly nodded. She looked anxiously at June Fengling and gently held her hand. Adoptive mother. Don't worry about adoptive father. He'll be fine. When you give birth to the baby, he'll be back. Chapter 1157. June Fengling was in so much pain that she had no strength to speak. Sweat dripped from her forehead. She clenched Yi Qi's hand tightly and bit her lip until it bled. She had no other wish now. She only hoped that after the birth of her child, she could go and help Yi Jingchen. Outside the city gate, under the leadership of a middle-aged general, a group of soldiers stood there, shouting incessantly. The gate of the city slowly opened. The first to step out was Jian Qingguen, dressed in a military uniform. He held an iron sword in his hand and was followed by a group of soldiers. Next, Yi Jingchen and the others rushed over and blocked the city gate. Jian Qingguen, I didn't come to Heavenly Cloud Nation for your imperial family. I came here to cause trouble for the Yi family. If you leave now, I might spare your life. The general sneered. Otherwise, don't blame me for destroying your imperial family. Jian Qingwen's expression was cold. The Yi family is a force of our Tianyun kingdom, so I have the right to protect them. Moreover, have you forgotten the rules of the various kingdoms? Rules? The general laughed. What rules? Why don't I know? I only know that the Wushuang Empire and the Luiyue Empire will soon become the vassals of our Tianyun kingdom. Jian Qingwen's face changed. What do you mean? My meaning is very clear. This continent will soon become the world of our Tianyun kingdom. Ha ha. The general laughed again. Come, kill everyone in the Yi family, leave no one alive. Oh, I forgot, Yun Luofeng's relatives are also in the Yi family. At that time I must torture them. That depends on whether you have the ability to do so. Yi Jingchen stepped forward and said mockingly. Kill them. The general waved his hand and said coldly. In an instant, the soldiers behind him rushed into the battlefield like a group of madmen, and the sounds of battle shook the heavens. Yi Jingchen rushed into the crowd and stabbed a soldier's chest with his sword. The soldier's face remained expressionless, as if he did not know pain. He punched Yi Jingchen hard. Yi Jingchen's eyes narrowed and flashed past. At this moment, the bloody hole in the soldier's chest gradually healed. That's right. The place where Yi Jingchen had stabbed him earlier was healing at the fastest speed possible. What's going on? Yi Jingchen's face drained of color as he retreated into the crowd of the Yi family with a solemn expression. Jian Qingguen frowned. These soldiers are strange. They are like puppets that don't know pain. They only know how to charge and break through enemy lines. Moreover, they have the ability to heal themselves. What happened to the Tianhui Empire? Yi Jingchen's eyes darkened. When he saw that there were no powerhouses among the attackers, he thought that they would be dealt with quickly. Who would have thought that these soldiers would be immortal? Be careful. Seeing the soldiers attacking Yi Jingchen, he shouted, pulling Yi Jingchen out of his thoughts. He hurriedly raised his sword to block the attack. Just now he encountered God of Meng on the battlefield. If it weren't for Jian Qingwen's warning, he might have been seriously injured. No, Juner was still waiting for him at home. He had to get rid of these people as soon as possible. At this moment, there were no pedestrians on the streets of the Tianhui Empire. Those people had already been warned by the imperial family and had closed their doors, so the whole street seemed extremely desolate. Only the sounds of fighting could be heard. Chapter 1158. From dawn to dusk, the soldiers of Tianyun had all fallen. Only Jian Qingguen and the Yi family were still struggling to hold on. This battle lasted for a day and a night. The enemies on the other side seemed to know no fatigue and continued to fight endlessly. The Yi family. June Fengling's heart-wrenching voice could be heard from the room. Her voice was filled with pain. It was so painful that it made the hearts of those who heard it tremble. It had been a day and a night and the amniotic fluid had broken, but the child's head had not been revealed. The midwife was extremely anxious. This won't do. If this goes on, young madam won't be able to hold on for more than a few hours. The midwife stood up and said anxiously, we have to find a doctor. Otherwise, young madam will definitely lose her life because of the difficult labor. I'll go to the palace to find a doctor. The doctors in the city have already fled. Ning Xian stood up and turned to leave. Even though the doctors in the palace were all men, she couldn't care less under such circumstances. Nothing was more important than June Fengling's life. June Fengling gripped the quilt tightly. She had been wise all her life. She didn't die on the battlefield, but she was going to die because of a difficult labor? No. She couldn't accept it. Brother Yi was still fighting. How could she retreat? Child, you've already tortured your mother for a day and a night. Normally you can do whatever you want, but right now your father is still fighting with someone. Your mother must go and help him. I beg you, hurry up and come out. If anything happens to your father, your mother will feel guilty for the rest of her life. A line of tears flowed from the corner of June Fengling's eyes. Whenever she thought of the danger that Yi Jingchen was facing, her heart ached unbearably. Perhaps it was because she understood June Fengling's words that she felt her body relax. The child's little head left her body and was exposed to the outside. Young madam. The midwife was overjoyed and hurriedly caught June Fengling again. The child's head is already out. As long as you push harder, he will be born. You must do your best. June Fengling was comforted. Her body seemed to have suddenly gained strength. She forcefully squeezed the child out of her body. Wah! A cry resounded throughout the room. It's a boy, young madam. It's a boy. You still have one in your stomach. Don't give up. She's about to be born. After giving birth to one child, it was easier to have another child. When the second child was also squeezed out of her body, June Fengling felt her whole body relax, and she instantly lost all her strength. She lay on the bed gasping for breath. The sheets beneath her had long been soaked in sweat. Congratulations, young madam. You've given birth to a boy and a girl. However, this little girl doesn't cry or make a fuss. She's very obedient. June Fengling forced her eyes open and looked at the two children in the midwife's arms. Of these two children, one was constantly making noise, while the other was sleeping quietly. If he hadn't sensed the girl's breath, he might have thought that she was already dead. Chi-Chi. June Fengling's palm pressed hard against the bed as she said tiredly, Go get the medicine Fenger left behind. Godmother. Yi-Chi's body trembled. You just gave birth. You can't go to Godfather's place. I'm fine. June Fengling shook her head. Fenger left some medicine for me earlier. It can help me recover my strength. Go and bring it over. After I take it, I'll be able to help your godfather. Chapter 1159. Before Yun Luofeng left, he was afraid that June Fengling would encounter danger during the birth, so he deliberately left some medicinal herbs behind to prevent any danger from happening. Godmother, why didn't you take this medicine out earlier if you had it? Yi-Chi asked angrily. You scared me to death just now. June Fengling smiled weakly. I still had strength at the time, so I didn't need this medicine. If I really didn't have any strength, I would definitely take it. I won't let my children be in danger. Of course, if the people from the Tianhui Empire hadn't suddenly attacked, she would have taken the medicine. It was because she wanted to help Yi Jingchen that she planned to wait until after the birth to take the medicine. Okay, I'll go get it. Yi-Chi had always seen the relationship between June Fengling and Yi Jingchen over the years. How could Godmother wait here with peace of mind when her godfather went to face the danger? She had never been a woman who hid behind a man. Even if she had just given birth, she would go to the battlefield and fight side by side with her man. Yi-Chi quickly brought a piece of blood ginseng. June Fengling put the blood ginseng in her mouth and felt the strength in her body gradually increase. Chi-Chi, Miss Ning, I'll have to trouble you two to look after my two children. After saying this, June Fengling's body turned into a gust of wind and quickly rushed out. The sand at the city gate was dyed red with blood, but it had become black with the erosion of time. However, the black blood was quickly dyed with new blood, and it was a beautiful red. Yi Jingchen was panting as he fought the enemy. He felt his spiritual power and physical strength gradually being consumed. If he continued to fight, his spiritual power would be depleted, and he would be at the mercy of others. Bang! Suddenly, the general saw that Yi Jingchen was gradually losing strength. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he hurriedly punched and sent Yi Jingchen flying. The spiritual power penetrated into Yi Jingchen's internal organs, causing his face to turn pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Shoot! Kill Yi Jingchen first. The general sneered, waved his hand and ordered cruelly. The archers raised their arrows and aimed at Yi Jingchen's body. Thousands of arrows were fired at the same time. If it had been in the beginning, these arrows would not have been a problem for Yi Jingchen, and he could have easily avoided them. But now he had used up all of his spiritual power, so he had no time to deal with the enemies in front of him. Yi Jingchen raised his head and faced the tens of thousands of arrows without any fear of death. Suddenly, an anxious voice came from behind him. "No, Brother Yi, quickly get out of the way, quickly go." His body trembled. When he turned his head, he saw Jun Fengling rushing towards him. Her eyes were filled with despair as tears streamed down her beautiful face. Her pale face was extremely translucent as she stared at Gu Ruoyun with heartache. Yi Jingchen stretched out his hand wanting to touch the woman's face, but the woman was still a distance away from him, so he could only touch the air in front of him. The members of the Yi family also stopped fighting. When they saw the arrow flying towards Yi Jingchen, they rushed towards him as fast as they could. Puchi! Time was silent at this moment. Jun Fengling, who was running wildly, also stopped in her tracks. She covered her mouth tightly with her hand, tears streaming down her face uncontrollably. The sword in Yun Qingye's hand slipped down. Her cold and handsome face was filled with sorrow at this moment. His gaze was as if he couldn't believe what was happening in front of him. Chapter 1160. Yi Jingchen was stunned. He didn't feel any pain from his body, so he turned his head. In an instant, his pupils shrank and anger welled up in his heart. In front of him, the man opened his arms and used his strong body to block Yi Jingchen. Countless arrows penetrated his body, and blood flowed along the arrows and fell to the ground. His body was like a huge mountain, but it made Yi Jingchen's heart tremble. General Jian. Boom! The mountain-like body collapsed with a loud bang, falling straight to the ground in front of Yi Jingchen. General Jian. Yi Jingchen climbed up from the ground and crawled towards Jian Chengguen. He used all his strength to crawl to his side, tears streaming down his face. General Jian, why did you do this? Why? Who said that a man shouldn't cry easily? It's just that it wasn't painful. General Jian coughed twice, and a mouthful of blood came out of his mouth. His voice was so weak that it seemed like it would disappear at any time. I promised Xiao Fenger that when she was away, I would protect her family for her. A man's words carry weight, and I must do what I promised. On that day, Yun Luofeng helped Jian Chengguen to break through his strength. In exchange, she asked Jian Chengguen to protect her family when she was away. But she didn't expect that Jian Chengguen was willing to lose his life for this promise. After saying this, Jian Chengwen's hand fell from Yi Jingchen's palm. His eyes gradually closed and he quietly lost his life. No! Yi Jingchen raised his head and shouted, Tianhui Empire, you will die a horrible death. You will die a horrible death. His voice was full of anger, and his sad eyes were bloodshot. He turned his head and stared at the general of the Tianhui Empire. You are a person who has exhausted your spiritual power. What qualifications do you have to curse me? The general smiled coldly. Besides, Jian Chengguen was courting death. It has nothing to do with me. The people of the Yi family were immersed in a sad atmosphere. Now that they heard the words of the general, their sadness turned into anger, and they madly attacked the soldiers of the Tianhui Empire. However, no matter how strong the Yi family's experts were, they were no match for this undying and indestructible army. No matter how much damage they suffered, they didn't know pain. Therefore, if this continued, the Yi clan would exhaust all their spiritual power. If it was just exhaustion, he could rely on the blood ginseng to recover. It was not so easy to exhaust his spiritual power. Looks like I'm late. Suddenly a cold voice came from the side. It was as if a force had mixed with this voice and fell into the crowd, causing the two sides of the battle to involuntarily separate. The man broke through the void and arrived. His white robe was like that of an immortal. He was handsome beyond compare, as if he had walked out of a painting. He was so perfect that it made people forget to breathe. Who are you? The general's face darkened as he asked coldly. The man raised his lips and smiled. His face was as handsome as a banished immortal, revealing a gentle luster. Yun Luofeng's old lover. If it weren't for the fact that the Yi family was grieving over Jian Cheng's death, they might have been amused by the man's words. But now no one laughed. Their faces were filled with sorrow. No matter who you are, since you came here, you must die. The general's eyes were cold and he ordered coldly, Kill this boy. On the battlefield, the sound of fighting rang out again. Chapter 1161. Everyone rushed towards the banished immortal man while shouting and yelling. Their imposing manner was overbearing. The man lowered his eyes and sneered. He waved his sleeve and a white light hit one of the soldiers. In an instant, the soldier screamed under his attack. What? The general's expression changed. The soldiers who had been modified did not know pain. How could this man make them feel pain so easily? Your bodies have been forged to be indestructible, but your souls are still weak. As long as your souls are destroyed, you will also lose your lives. As the man said this, countless white lights fell from the sky and hit everyone's chests. These people could not help but let out sorrowful wails. Not long after, those voices gradually weakened, and some people fell straight to the ground. The man walked down from the sky. With every step he took, there seemed to be green lotuses growing under his feet. It was shocking. Thank you for saving us, young master. Yi Jingchen suppressed the sadness in his heart and bowed with his fists. Don't thank me. The man put his hands behind his back and looked as beautiful as an immortal. When Yun Luofeng comes back, tell her that I'm here to see her. May I know who you are? You just need to tell her one thing. Is everything all right since we parted at Yellow Spring City? The man flicked his sleeves and left. His gentle voice came from the sky. Brother Yi. Jun Fengling walked forward and supported Yi Jingchen's body. She couldn't stop the sadness in her lowered eyes. Let's bring General Jian back. I just don't know if the Empress can take it after hearing the news. The Empress and General Jian had a deep sibling relationship. How could she bear such a blow? Juner, go back first. I'm going to the palace to apologize. If it weren't for me, General Jian wouldn't have died. If the Empress is sad, I'm willing to let her vent her anger. Brother Yi, I'll go with you. Jun Fengling raised her eyebrows and stared at Yi Jingchen. Your body is injured and hasn't recovered yet. So I'll go with you. Yi Jingchen nodded. Then let's go. In the palace. The Empress, who had been anxiously waiting for Jian Qingguan to return, heard such bad news. She was so sad that she fainted on the spot. After waking up, she couldn't help but cry loudly. Your Majesty, this concubine's elder brother's death is too unjust. Your Majesty, please avenge this concubine's elder brother, and kill those bastards of the Tianhui Empire. Seeing his beloved woman crying so miserably, the Emperor's heart ached and he hurriedly comforted her. Empress, this time, even if the entire heavenly cloud nation is annihilated, I will return to the heavenly empire. The Empress began to cry again. Her cries echoed throughout the entire backyard of the imperial palace, causing everyone to panic. Your Majesty, Empress, it's all my fault. Yi Jingchen stepped forward slowly. General Jian died at the city gate because he tried to save me. The Empress wiped her tears and said, Young Master Yi, this matter has nothing to do with you. You don't have to blame yourself. The ones who deserve to die are the beasts of the Tianhui Empire. This Empress can still distinguish between good and bad. What's more, I'm proud to have a brother who keeps his promise. If something really happened to you, it would be hard for me to face Fenger in this life. Empress. Jun Fengling looked at the Empress's swollen eyes and pursed her lips. I just sent a message to Feng. When she comes back, it will be the day of our revenge. Chapter 1162. Good. The Empress clapped her hands and gritted her teeth. Madam Yi, when the time comes, help me turn Fenger's life around and bring the Emperor of the Tianhui Empire back to me. I want to eat his blood, drink his flesh, and use his bones to honor my brother. Master Yi, take your wife back first. The Emperor smiled bitterly and helplessly. I heard that Madam just gave birth and went through a battle. It will definitely affect her body. Take her back to recuperate. I and the Empress won't blame you for this. That's right. The only ones who deserved to die were the bastards of the Tianhui Empire. They hated the people of the Tianhui Empire. Let's go. Yi Jingchen held Jun Fengling's shoulder and said gently, I'll take you back to rest first. When Fenger comes back, we'll decide how to take revenge. Jun Fengling nodded gently. She looked at the Empress, who was nestled in the Emperor's arms, and her eyes flashed with guilt. She immediately turned and walked out of the palace. In the palace, in the back garden, Jun Fengling remained silent. Her whole body was shrouded in a layer of sadness. It was obvious that she had not come out of the previous incident. Yi Jingchen quietly accompanied her, not saying a word. Brother Yi, Jun Fengling suddenly stopped. In a few months let's leave the Yi family. Leave? Yes, if we stay in the Yi family, it will be difficult for us to grow stronger. We have to go out and train like before. Only then can I grow faster. Jun Fengling turned to look at Yi Jingchen. I don't want what happened today to happen again. I don't want any more casualties around me. I don't want to experience this pain again. These days Jian Chengguen often went to the Yi family and established a good relationship with Yi Jingchen and his wife. Her heart ached when she thought of her old friends dying on the battlefield. Okay, in a few months we'll leave and let the Yi family take care of the children. When they thought of their 2 newborn children, their hearts were filled with reluctance. But what could they do? Only by becoming strong could they protect the people around them. Although Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao were strong, they could not stay in the Yi family forever. If something like this happened again in their absence, how could they deal with it? Therefore they had to abandon their newborn child and go out to improve their strength. Yi Jingchen held Jun Fengling's hand tightly. Juner, I know you can't bear to part with the child. Don't worry. The child will understand you in the future. Jun Fengling nodded weakly. No matter how reluctant she was, she had to leave. Yeah, I'm tired. Let's go back and rest. After saying this, Jun Fengling walked out of the palace. Since the Yi family had a wet nurse, there was no need for Jun Fengling to feed them. Therefore, when she returned to the Yi family, she glanced at the 2 children and went back to her room to rest. After giving birth, she didn't sleep for a day and a night. After giving birth, she went to the city gate to help in the battle without resting. In the end, because of Jian Qingwen's death, she fell asleep as soon as she went to bed. This sleep lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. During this time, Yun Luofeng, who was far away in Endless City, had already received a letter from the Yi family. She clutched the letter in her hand, and her face was frighteningly gloomy. Miss Yun, what happened? Qing Shuang, who was sitting in front of Yun Luofeng, was stunned when she saw Yun Luofeng's terrifying expression. Chapter 1163. The Yi family sent a message saying that the Tianhui Empire launched an attack on the Tianyun Empire. Jian Chengguen sacrificed himself to protect Yi Jingchen. The Tianhui Empire. Yun Luofeng clenched the letter in her hand tightly. Her beautiful face was filled with murderous intent. What? Princess Qing Shuang was shocked. You mean General Jian Chengguen of the Tianyun Empire? Yun Luofeng nodded slightly. He died at the hands of the Tianhui Empire. Yun Luofeng had asked Jian Chengguen to take care of her family, but she did not expect that this man, who valued his promise more than his own life, would lose his life because of this. Thinking of the man who affectionately called her Xiao Fenger, Yun Luofeng clenched her fists tightly. Her fingertips were bleeding, but she did not notice. Hate? How could she not hate? Although Jian Chengguen was not her family, she had always treated him like an uncle. However, those people had caused his death. Your Royal Highness, something bad has happened. At this moment, a guard from the Liyue Empire rushed in and said respectfully, Your Royal Highness, the Tianhui Empire is under attack. His Majesty ordered you not to return. What did you say? Princess Qing Shuang was shocked again. How dare the Liyue Empire attack the Liyue Empire? Not only the Liyue Empire, but the Wushuang Empire is also under attack. Prince Enlan has rushed back. The guard wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said weakly. He did not understand why the Tianhui Empire had the courage to provoke the 2 empires. Let's go back. Princess Qing Shuang's eyes darkened. She turned to Yun Luofeng and said, Miss Yun, I am sorry I have to return. If there is a chance in the future, I will visit you again. After saying this, Princess Qing Shuang left in a hurry without looking back. In the blink of an eye, her beautiful figure had disappeared. Qingmu. Yun Luofeng looked up and ordered. You stay here, I will go back to the Tianyun Empire. Tower Master, do you need the medical tower to go with you? No. Yun Luofeng shook his head. I will take the Steel Flame Legion with me. After saying this, Yun Luofeng walked out of the room. Qingmu looked at the girl's receding figure and sighed. The Tianhui Empire has really made a big mess this time. Isn't that so? Gu Yang said with a bitter smile. Yun Luofeng pays more attention to relationships. They killed her people, how could she just let it go? I am afraid that the fate of the Tianhui Empire will be even more miserable than the Nangong family. Greenwood rejoiced. Luckily we left early. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to stop myself from beating up that stupid emperor. The century-old foundation of the Tianhui Empire will be destroyed in his hands. Although Yun Luofeng's expression was calm just now, in reality, he had already set off raging waves. The Tianhui Empire had offended her, so how could it survive? That was absolutely impossible. Heavenly Cloud Nation. Yi family. Jun Fengling sat in the courtyard with the children in her arms. Her handsome face raised a shallow arc, and her gentle gaze enveloped the two children in her arms. Adoptive mother, let me help you. Yi Qi stepped forward and wanted to help Jun Fengling hold the children. Jun Fengling shook her head. No, when the Tianhui Empire is destroyed, I will leave with your adoptive father, so I want to cherish the time I have with them. Chapter 1164. During this period of time, Jun Fengling did everything herself. Even feeding the children, she did it herself. Because they didn't have much time left, she wanted to spend the last time with them. Young master, young madam, Miss Yun is back. Suddenly, a joyful voice came from outside the door. Jun Fengling's fingers trembled and she hurriedly stood up from the pavilion. Her eyes were filled with tears of surprise as she looked at the young girl who walked in from outside the courtyard. The young girl's clothes were whiter than snow. When her eyes saw Jun Fengling standing in the pavilion, she couldn't help but stop. Fenger. Jun Fengling's lips trembled. You're finally back. Since Jian Qingwen's death, she hadn't been able to get out of her grief. She and Yi Jingchen blamed themselves. If they were strong enough, Jian Qingwen wouldn't have sacrificed himself in vain. Mother. Yun Luofeng walked over quickly and gently hugged Jun Fengling. He lowered his eyes and said, I know everything. Don't worry, I will go to the Tianhui Empire later to avenge Uncle Jian. Jun Fengling wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and forced a smile on her face. Fenger, the Empress's pregnancy has been affected recently. She may not be able to keep the child. I want you to go to the palace to see her. After all, if it weren't for the Yi family, Jian Qingwen wouldn't have died, and the Empress's pregnancy would have been affected. Okay. Yun Luofeng nodded. Go to the palace to treat the Empress. Jun Fengling wanted to say something but stopped herself in the end. She looked at Yun Luofeng lovingly and said, Child, you've worked hard. I've heard about what happened in Endless City. You've just settled things there and now you're rushing back to take revenge. Mother. Yun Luofeng paused and raised his head. His deep black eyes were firm. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If someone offends me, even if he escapes thousands of miles away, I will definitely kill him. I won't let him live. Jun Fengling stroked Yun Luofeng's hair. Then go. If you're late, I'm afraid the Empress's baby won't be safe. Okay. Yun Luofeng didn't say anything more. She looked at the two children in Jun Fengling's arms and turned to leave. This time she came back in a hurry and left in a hurry. He didn't even have time to bid farewell to the old master before he hurried to the palace. Perhaps it was because of Jian Qingwen's death that the Empress's pregnancy was affected, causing the entire imperial palace to be lifeless. The palace maids and guards were all silent and busy with their own matters. Yun Luofeng walked into the Empress' bedroom and immediately saw the Emperor who was personally feeding the Empress medicine. Miss Yun, you're back? The Emperor was feeding the Empress medicine when he saw Yun Luofeng pushing open the door and entering. A trace of joy flashed across his eyes. After seeing Yun Luofeng, the Empress, whose face had been full of sorrow, immediately climbed up from her bed with an unknown strength and rushed towards Yun Luofeng. Fenger, your uncle Jian died so miserably. Those inhumane bastards from the Heavenly Hui Empire killed him. I beg you to avenge your uncle Jian. The Empress cried her heart out. Her voice had already become dumbfounded. Her hands clutched Yun Luofeng's arms tightly. Her red and swollen eyes were filled with hatred. Yun Luofeng looked at the haggard face of the Empress and his tone softened. I came back this time to avenge Jian Shu. When the time comes, I will definitely bring the Emperor of the Heavenly Hui Empire to Jian Shu's grave and make him kowtow and apologize. And you can do whatever you want with him. Chapter 1165. The Empress loosened her hand. That's good, that's good. You must avenge your Uncle Jian. He died so miserably. I will definitely avenge him. Of course you have to take good care of the fetus. Jian Shu has passed away. Don't you want your child anymore? Child? The Empress's body trembled. She gently stroked her slightly protruding belly. Her eyes were filled with sadness. I know I can't do this, but when I think of your Uncle Jian's death, I can't extricate myself from my grief. The doctor said that I can't keep this child. Empress, what nonsense are you talking about? The Emperor gently stroked the Empress's black hair. His tone was slightly reproachful. Don't worry, our child will be fine. Feng'er has come back. With her medical skills, she can definitely save the child. What you have to do now is to relax and let General Jian rest in peace. Yun Luofeng's eyes fell on the Empress's belly. She pondered for a while and said, I will go to the Tianhui Empire for revenge later. Before that, I will leave you a prescription. At that time, you can decoct the medicine according to the prescription. Soon, the Empress's body will recover. Miss Yun, I really have to thank you again this time. The Emperor showed his gratitude. First, you saved the Empress' life, then you made the Empress pregnant. Now because of you, this child can be protected. Yun Luofeng smiled bitterly. You used to thank me, and I accepted it with a clear conscience. But this time, because of the Yi family, the Empress was dragged down. Uncle Jian died to save my father, and the Empress's pregnancy was affected because of his death. So in the end, it is the Yi family's fault. Miss Yun, are you going to avenge yourself later? The Emperor looked at Yun Luofeng and asked. Yun Luofeng nodded gently. I will be back in half a month. Good. The Emperor gritted his teeth. Those bastards killed General Jian and made my Empress so sad. I will never forgive them for this. Miss Yun, if you want to take revenge, you won't have enough manpower. You can use the troops of my imperial kingdom as you wish. I will give you full authority to deal with the millions of troops. No, Yun Luofeng shook her head. I alone am enough to destroy the Tianhui Empire. If I bring the soldiers, it will cause unnecessary casualties. I won't allow that to happen. She had always treasured anyone's life. He had never risked the lives of the Steel Flame Legion. Just like back in Endless City, she also chose to explore the underground by herself, leaving the rest behind. This was because she would never make unnecessary sacrifices. It was also because of this that the people around her were willing to obey her. After Yun Luofeng handed the prescription to the Empress, she walked out and left the palace. Empress. The Emperor hugged the Empress' body tightly and comforted her in a soft voice. Feng'er has already gone to the Tianhui Empire to take revenge.